Part 53. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 533. Luo Guang couldn't help but feel lucky that he didn't bring a live recorder with him for disguise, so that he wouldn't leave any evidence to prove that he saw something he shouldn't have seen. Simmons' feelings for Ada have already reached a pathological level. Who knows if the other party will get too excited and be forced to commit suicide because he has seen the fake Ada's unreserved body. He will definitely not surrender, but he doesn't want to disrupt his plan, which is too troublesome. Thinking of this, Luo Guang did not go over to cover the other party's graceful body with a towel, but stepped back a few steps and kept his distance. The fake Ada in front of him did not wake up immediately after birth, and Kara, who had just completed the mutation, was still in a deep sleep. She had a very long dream. Although she couldn't remember what she dreamed about, she remembered that she had spent a happy life with her beloved in the dream. Kara slowly opened her still hazy eyes and saw a familiar figure standing in front of her. For some reason, she felt that there was an indescribable feeling coming from the other party, which made her unconsciously feel attached to and worship him. The two strange feelings disappeared quickly, and Kara thought it was just his illusion. Luo Guang was different from the other party. Instead, he had a sense of control, as if he could control the other party's actions at any time. He instantly understood the reason for this feeling. Because the new virus in the other party's body has the ability to control other infected people of the same type. And this ability is partly from the genes of the T. Veronica virus, which is the same as Luo Guang's control ability, and will naturally be affected by people of higher class like Luo Guang. This was also an unexpected surprise for Luo Guang, but he was more curious why those ordinary enemies didn't give him such a feeling before. Skipping this question for the time being, he did not control the other party immediately, but made fine adjustments so that the other party could not sense the weak control chain between him and the other party. Kara, who finally woke up completely, suddenly felt a little cold in his body. He looked down at Luo Guang, followed by a scream, and quickly covered his body with his hands. He was wearing clothes when he injected the adaptive virus. How come he was gone when he woke up, and let the other party see everything? Luo Guang sighed, walked over and handed the towel and a set of clothes on the table to the other party. Kara squeezed her legs together, covered her breasts with one hand, and took the clothes from Luo Guang's hand with the other hand. Her face flushed, and she shyly ordered, "You are still looking. Turn around." At this time, she was too shy and didn't think about Luo Guang's attitude towards her. Ada would not speak in this tone, so Luo Guang could now confirm that the other party was definitely not the real Ada. In fact, he just handed the clothes with his head turned away and didn't look at it. But he still turned around obediently, thinking about various things in his mind, such as whether to expose Kara's true identity later. According to the current situation, the most likely possibility is that Kara took great pains to direct and act out the attack on her own research institute in order to pretend to be Ada and let the X organization that came with the locator capture her back. Simmons would not doubt her because she looked exactly like Ada. Then, Kara would be able to have a good time with Simmons. After all, Kara's current appearance should have fooled even Leon. Luo Guang thought about it and thought that if Kara really knew Ada's character and behavior, her behavior and tone would not be like this. Of course, maybe the other party has not completely changed her identity and forgot to play Ada for a while. Or maybe he guessed wrong, and the current situation has nothing to do with Resident Evil 6. It is not the other party who directed and acted. But Luo Guang is more inclined to direct and act. He did not think so based on the plot of the game Resident Evil 6, but because the enemy was too familiar with the Institute. When the enemy kidnapped Shirley and the others, they did not take a detour. In addition, Kara was easily captured in the Institute, which made him feel even more strange. While listening to the rustling sound behind him that made people full of infinite reverie, he made the final decision. Luo Guang wanted to expose the other party and report the situation to Simmons truthfully. His main task was to find Kara and Shirley. If it was the real Ada, it would be fine. The problem was that this was a fake Ada. Kara had never taken acting classes, and it was impossible for her to perform for a lifetime. Sooner or later, she would be exposed. Luo Guang didn't want to take such a risk. But he had to figure out how to prove that the Ada in front of him was Kara. This was as difficult as proving that it was himself. Of course, it would be best if Kara could explain why she looked like Ada. Luo Guang figured out the next move, while Kara was still dithering and hadn't changed her clothes. She first wiped every inch of her skin with a towel. At the same time, she was also carefully feeling her body, which had undergone earth-shaking changes, and the joy in her heart appeared directly on her face. She usually dressed very simply and wrapped herself very tightly. Now she put on that blue dress, which made her a little nervous. She had never exposed her back and cleavage like this before. The reason why she mustered up the courage and carefully selected this outfit was to show it to Simmons and attract his attention. At the same time, she also took this time to think about the current situation and make plans for the next step. Inspired by Shirley's kidnapping, Kara directed and acted in this incident herself. The whole plan is divided into two parts. The first part is to attack the research institute, so that she and Shirley can temporarily escape the site of the X organization. She used Simmons's special forces as a cover to secretly develop and recruit her own men, who were responsible for this attack. To this end, she added control capabilities to the new virus she was researching, so that she could use the virus to infect the soldiers she liked and ensure that these men were absolutely loyal to her. Because Kara wanted to ensure that this plan was kept secret and could not be leaked, let alone let her crush see the clues. The second part was to complete the transformation before the X organization investigation team found her, and then choose one of her plans according to the situation. In order for the X organization to find her, she deliberately left a locator as a clue. The location was not Kara, but Shirley. Because Shirley was kidnapped before, it was reasonable for her to implant a chip that maintained the positioning function through bioelectricity. The overall plan was roughly like this, and the purpose was naturally for Kara's own selfishness. She had to find a reasonable explanation for her sudden transformation into Aida. This is the enemy's conspiracy. The beekeepers wanted to brainwash me and then send me back to Simmons as an undercover agent. Fortunately, when my appearance was changed by the enemy and I was about to be transported away for brainwashing, the X organization rescuers appeared in time to save me. The above is what Kara prepared to say. According to the intelligence collected by the organization now, the members of the beekeepers have memory problems, so the beekeepers are likely to control the memory, brainwashing, technology, which is a crucial foothold in her explanation. Why the enemy knows her identity can be borrowed from the kidnapping of Shirley and say that the enemy has investigated her identity as the director. Why the enemy is targeting Simmons can be explained from the recent struggle between the X organization and the Apocalypse organization. Speaking of this, Kara has to thank Luo Guang for providing the Apocalypse organization intelligence. Let her know that the Apocalypse organization also has memory modification technology, which can link the Apocalypse organization and the Beekeepers organization together. When she explained this kidnapping as a counterattack by the enemy against the X organization, this would make the enemy's motive for committing the crime more convincing. In addition to turning herself into Ada, Kara had other purposes. The first was that she could take this opportunity to formalize the C virus she was secretly researching, and at the same time use the confrontation between the two organizations to experiment with her own C virus. The second goal was to allow Shirley to take this opportunity to leave the institute, which was a little favor she gave to her friend. Yes, even if she now thinks Shirley is her friend, her view of Shirley is different from that of ordinary friends. The two are more like a noble lady and a poor girl being friends. With the ability of the X organization, Shirley can only live an anonymous life after leaving the institute, and it is not easy to find Claire and Leon. So Kara also very considerately found the genes of a beautiful girl for Shirley. That's right, she also wanted to let Shirley directly turn into another person to completely eliminate the possibility of being found by the X organization. Kara knew Shirley's physical data and G-virus data very well, so she naturally didn't worry that her specially made C-virus would conflict with the G-virus in Shirley's body. It is worth mentioning that she did not tell Shirley about her plan, so Shirley never knew the fate she would face. Fortunately, Luo Guang took the lead in applying to take Shirley out of the institute, and Kara learned from Simmons that the other party agreed to this application. So she changed her plan temporarily, and did not inject her special C-virus after kidnapping Shirley. At the beginning, the whole plan was within Kara's calculations, but an accident occurred in a small link. According to her previous research and tests, this change of appearance would not take a lot of time. So after the successful transformation, she should have a lot of time to adjust the plan to ensure that the plan can successfully deceive everyone, rather than being seen by Luo Guang. But now the plan cannot keep up with the changes, so Kara has to delay time and sort out the situation. "I'm dressed," Ada's voice sounded from behind Luo Guang. Not only the appearance and figure, but also the voice is exactly the same, with only a difference in tone. Luo Guang turned around and looked at the fake Ada, who looked exactly like the one in the game, and said, "Kara, how did you become Ada?" "What?" Kara was stunned. Her current appearance was exactly the same as the original. She thought about the differences between her and Ada in character and behavior, but she didn't expect Luo Guang to say her true identity in such a short time with such a positive tone. If it was just because he was very familiar with that woman, so he was surprised by her behavior and tone, and thus had doubts, she could still understand. But it was strange to say her true identity in one go. Luo Guang saw that the other party was a little stunned, and explained, "I didn't find any trace of you up there, so." "So you confirmed my identity," Kara said. "At first, it's not right. There are so many possibilities, why do you think it's this possibility?" She has two plans for her transformation into Ada. One is to pretend to be Ada directly, and the other is to reveal her identity as Kara and tell Simmons the prepared words. Both sides have their pros and cons. She originally planned to choose according to the situation, but she didn't expect the other party to choose for her directly. However, she actually had the answer in her heart, so she prepared more fully and in detail for the latter. Because she hoped that Simmons liked Kara Radames, not Ada Wong. Perhaps someone would ask, if that's the case, why do you want to turn yourself into Ada? The reason is very simple. Although Kara is a genius girl, she is different from the same type of characters in animation and other movies and TV shows. She is not beautiful or cute, but just an ordinary girl with an ordinary or even a little rustic appearance. And Simmons likes Ada, who has a beauty and temperament that makes her hesitate and have to admit. So she will take a different approach, thinking that doing so can level the gap between herself and Ada in this regard. Luo Guang said speechlessly, "I'll just trick you, isn't it? I'll be very troubled if you're not here. If the other party is not Kara, he can't find someone without new clues." Kara took a deep breath and unconsciously raised her hand, wanting to touch her hair, but she remembered that her long hair that covered her face had changed to short hair. She wanted to use the fact that the other party saw her body exactly like Ada's to threaten the other party to cooperate with her and tell the real reason. But thinking that the other party was Simmons's right-hand man, not the waste in the institute, and she had no evidence, she finally gave up doing so. No, Kara didn't believe in luck, and the other party should have come in for a while, but did not attack herself, who was still in the pupa, which was obviously not in line with the other party's style of antibiochemical operations. Luo Guang couldn't say that he guessed based on the content of the game, so he replied, "It's the tone of your voice and some small movements." Kara didn't guess that the other party would see through her clone for this reason, and said in a somewhat unnatural tone, "But we didn't chat much." Luo Guang said, "But your tone of command is exactly the same as before. Although you have short hair now, I have also seen the action of lifting your hair just now. In addition, I have a certain understanding of Ada, so I guess you are not Ada, but Kara." He added Ada's sentence to increase credibility. Kara didn't know what she was thinking, and finally gave up asking. Luo Guang took back the initiative of the conversation and said, "Tell me about the situation." "What is it?" Kara was uneasy, and for a moment she couldn't figure out what the other party meant. She was afraid that Luo Guang, who had seen through her identity, would see through her plan again. Luo Guang deliberately made it unclear. He answered with a strange look on his face, "Of course it's about you being kidnapped. Now that we have found the hostage, we have to take revenge next." "Oh, yes. But I have to tell the leader about this in person. Otherwise, I have to tell him again later. I don't want to recall the horror I encountered before." Kara was too indifferent to her kidnapping before, so she made up for this little mistake. "Okay. Let's leave here first." Luo Guang also wanted to meet Simmons. Kara nodded, but she almost fell when she took the first step. She was not used to wearing high heels. Meow, thank you for subscribing and voting meow. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Meow. Chapter 534. Luo Guang got in touch with the raiding team standing above, and after learning the latest situation, he told them that they could close the team. He and Kara were then escorted out of the abandoned apartment by the strike team. Support from organization. Shirley was sitting in an ambulance, drinking sweet hot cocoa, and looking towards the apartment from time to time. She immediately saw Luo Guang coming out with a strange woman. There should be no women among those imprisoned homeless people, right? She never imagined that the woman was the Kara she was waiting for. Shirley put down the mug, ran over, and asked anxiously, "Brother Luo Guang, where is Kara?" She didn't know Ada, so she didn't even look at the fake Ada. Luo Guang did not answer immediately, but looked at the fake Ada beside him. Kara took the question and said, "I am Kara." "Hey," Shirley turned her head suddenly and looked at Kara in disbelief. After looking up and down, she said, "Kara, are you, like me, infected with the virus, so you have grown up so much?" Kara hugged her chest. Her first reaction was that Shirley was making fun of her bust. She was not used to having a heavy object on her chest that would affect her experiments. Since the other party chose to tell the truth, Luo Guang also started chatting. "Anyway, this is Kara. She hasn't told me the specific reason yet." Shirley hid her curiosity in her heart, nodded obediently, and didn't ask any more questions. Luo Guang asked her to take a rest first, and then went to the command vehicle with Kara to contact Simmons. "Boss, we have found everyone, but something happened. Kara, someone who should be Kara, said she wants to communicate with you face to face." The other party was very busy. Judging from the background picture, the other party seemed to be in the command center of the Department of Homeland Security. Simmons doesn't usually stay at home and enjoy life every day. Work is the main theme of his day. He saw Luo Guang talking intermittently and looking very embarrassed, and asked strangely, "What's going on?" "Now that the person is found, just bring him back." "Did something happen to Kara?" Luo Guang hesitated for a moment, stamped his foot, and made up his mind, "Oh, I don't know how to say it, so let Kara talk to you." "This is different from what was promised." A familiar voiceover sounded from the headphones, making Simmons jump and sit up straight. Luo Guang turned to look outside the screen and said, "The boss is at work, and you can't delay this matter. It's better to make it clear earlier." Simmons held his breath and listened carefully to the conversation between the two. Kara knew that Luo Guang didn't want to take this responsibility, so it was the best choice for her to admit that she was Kara, and it would be easier for Simmons to believe this. Okay. Let me do it. Kara walked to the camera. Simmons was not expecting this. He opened his eyes wide and grabbed the computer screen and pulled it in front of him. Ada, when he saw the lover of his dreams, he had a look of surprise on his face, but he didn't expect it to hurt Kara's heart. Simmons then said to Luo Guang, "How did you find her?" He was so excited that he even forgot that Luo Guang said before that Kara wanted to talk to him. Carla smiled bitterly in her heart, cheered up and said, "I am not Ada, I am Carla Radames." What? Simmons' expression now is the same as that of those idiots talking about Nanny. Luo Guang felt funny in his heart, but he managed his expression very well and no one saw the problem. In the game, Kara was deceived by Simmons and forced to take the form of Ada Wong, which led to a series of events that followed. But in reality, Kara took the initiative to become Ada, so Simmons was not surprised that he was so surprised. Kara waited for Simmons to calm down before speaking out the explanation she had prepared. This explanation is more complete than previously thought and adds a lot of details. For example, after waking up early, she did not alert the enemy, but chose to pretend to be asleep, and then successfully overheard the enemy's plan, etc. It's so detailed. You must have made a draft a long time ago. Luo Guang silently complained in his heart as he listened to the other party speaking out the matter smoothly. He won't believe the other party's lies. If this is really what the Apocalypse organization arranged, then there must be surveillance equipment in Guanren's basement, and in the end the enemy may blow up the entire apartment to destroy the corpses. To put it simply, the Apocalypse organization cannot commit such crude crimes. However, he had no intention of exposing the other party or raising questions. It was in Kara's interest to pass the blame to the Apocalypse organization. Simmons was in a state of confusion at this time, and coupled with his trust in Kara and his love for Ada's appearance, he did not carefully examine whether there was any problem in Kara's words. After Kara finished speaking, he said, "I know, but are you really Kara? How come you have changed in all aspects in such a short time? Plastic surgery also requires recovery time, and the bandages cannot be removed so quickly." Kara pretended to be thinking and replied, "The enemy injected me with a tube of liquid, and then I passed out. When I woke up, I became what I am now. There may be something wrong with the liquid." Simmons nodded, his mind finally starting to work. He looked at Luo Guang and asked about the situation at that time. Luo Guang briefly explained how he found Shirley and Kara. He did not say that he saw Kara coming out of the pupa, and Kara did not expose it. Kara could not write a short essay. As a researcher, she would be more rational and felt that she had no evidence, so it was useless to slander Luo Guang. However, she still made a small deal with Luo Guang on this matter. In order to please Simmons better, she wanted to know what characteristics and habits Ada had. Although Luo Guang felt that the other party's approach was the first step towards the abyss, Kara did not listen to the advice and thought that this was the fastest way to capture Simmons' heart. In this case, Luo Guang met the other party's request and talked about Ada's personality a little. Kara and Ada's personalities are not similar, so it is naturally difficult to learn. Luo Guang did not hide his private matters, but some things can only be understood, not expressed in words. With Simmons' current status, he has seen all kinds of women. Why is he so fond of Ada? Not only because Ada was the first woman to reject him, but also because of the unique temperament of the other party. Kara can imitate the former, and don't just satisfy Simmons' needs. She should let Simmons have the excitement of challenging the peak and the sense of achievement of conquering the peak. But in Luo Guang's view, the temperament of Ada that Kara can't control is what Simmons really pursues. Human greed is insatiable, not to mention Simmons, who has never failed to get it, but only thought of it. He will definitely continue to ask Kara to show this temperament, and want Kara to truly become the her in his mind, and he will definitely drive Kara crazy in the end. So Luo Guang said something when he and Kara left the underground room. No matter what you look like, you are Kara in my opinion. Luo Guang is indeed brushing the other party's favorability, but the purpose is not the other party's current beautiful body. A long time ago, he had a plan to let the other party join his secret research institute. After all, Kara is a genius in research. So he is now making a good relationship just to recruit the other party later. Back to the conversation with Simmons. After listening to Luo Guang's words, Simmons didn't say anything more and decided to temporarily close the case according to Kara's statement. So Luo Guang's mission to investigate the mastermind of the attack is over. He naturally had no objection to this result, but it was a pity that Simmons did not intend to meet them. However, he applied for Shirley to leave the institute and return to normal life. After that, Kara went home to wait for Simmons to meet her. I think everyone can guess what happy things will happen between the two, so I won't say more. On the other side, Luo Guang found Shirley with good news. Shirley was naturally ecstatic when she heard this, and said, "Then can I eat hamburgers and ice cream as I like in the future?" There is no shortage of food and drink in the institute, but her meals must be specially taken care of by a nutritionist to ensure Shirley's balanced nutrition and not to affect the experiment, so there will be no food such as carbohydrate bombs. You can eat if you want, but everything should be in moderation. Luo Guang ended Shirley's house arrest career ahead of time, not to make Shirley fat. "I know," Shirley replied happily and got into the car with Luo Guang. Luo Guang drove the car and checked it before getting in the car. He started the car and asked, "Shirley, what are your plans next?" Shirley didn't know what Luo Guang wanted to say, so she replied, "Go back to Claire's house. By the way, have you told Claire and Leon about this good news?" "Not yet. Claire is in Pananistan and should be busy now, so there's no one at her house. And Leon is finishing work in Washington, so he probably doesn't have time either. In fact, Leon is not in Washington to command his men to receive F.B.C's property. He is leading a team out to perform a mission. The mission was originally the responsibility of the CIA, but they confirmed that their target involved arms business including biological and chemical weapons, so they urgently contacted Leon for support. The CIA had actually received intelligence that the enemy was suspected of having biological and chemical weapons, but they didn't want to share their credit, so they didn't contact DSO at first. But they suffered a Waterloo in a manhunt. This mission caused the CIA to lose 12 agents, and they were killed by the same biological and chemical weapon. The only gain was that they confirmed that the target was really involved in the research and development and sales of biological and chemical weapons. So they had to contact DSO and ask for cooperation and support. Shirley heard this and replied, "Then brother Luo Guang, you have to go back to Africa to work too." While driving, Luo Guang said, "You also know your situation. The G virus in your body is not completely non-infectious. And the kidnapping incidents before and just now, it is definitely not possible for you to live alone." Shirley knew that if Claire knew her situation, she would always accompany her, or bring her with her. But she understood that Claire had been busy with something of great significance. So she didn't want to drag Claire down, even though she would definitely not have such an idea. Since brother Luo Guang raised this question, he should have his own ideas, right? Shirley thought to herself. She nodded and said, "I know. They are all busy people and don't have time to take care of me every day." Luo Guang sighed, "I know you want to live with Claire, but given the current situation, unless..." Shirley noticed the other party's embarrassment and said directly, "I have grown up, brother Luo Guang. I understand a lot of things." Luo Guang really still treated her as a child, so he planned to take things step by step to let Shirley understand that he did this not to break up her and Claire, but based on realistic considerations. Since Shirley said so, he would not beat around the bush. "I want you to live in the GIMZ South African base. Jack and others also live there, and there are enough combatants to protect your safety. Although the X organization's influence in Africa is not as strong as in Europe and the United States, due to historical reasons, the X organization's influence in South Africa cannot be underestimated, and it is also the location of its African branch. Luo Guang let Shirley live there, which was not out of the sight of the X organization, so Simmons did not raise any objections. Finally, he added, "Of course, it depends on your idea. I am providing you with a plan, not forcing you." Shirley thought for a while and asked, "Can I go back to the lighthouse country?" "Of course, as long as Claire or Leon are free, you can go back to the lighthouse country to find them at any time." "That's fine, I have no objection to this arrangement." Shirley was relieved. She had encountered situations where Claire and Leon were not free before, and she was bored staying at home alone at that time. When she was in the institute, except for daily inspections, she basically stayed alone in the room, and no one talked to her, which was very boring. Since Jack was also in the GIMZ base, at least he had a companion. Luo Guang continued to ask, "By the way, Shirley, how far have you progressed in the institute?" Shirley also had a special tutor in the institute to teach her to read and write, and replied, "I have already obtained a high school diploma." She studied very well, and some of the knowledge she learned was only learned in college. In addition, although Shirley got her diploma, she took the exam alone and did not need to go to the examination room. Luo Guang nodded. The other party's learning progress was much faster than he expected, so he could save a sum of tutoring fees. He still had questions. "What are your plans next? Will you continue to go to college?" Shirley shook her head. She learned a lot about the GIMZ unit from Jack, and knew that the best thing about this unit was antibiochemical training. This was the main reason why she agreed to live in South Africa after learning that she could return to the lighthouse country to find Claire at any time. She was only 12 years old in Raccoon City, and she was powerless to do anything about her experience. She could only hide behind Claire and Leon. Now she is 18 years old and has left the institute. She can pursue the life she wants and do what she wants. Shirley wants to be a strong person like Claire and protect others from the suffering she experienced in Raccoon City. Before that, all she needs is to learn all kinds of knowledge about antibiochemical crises. So she said to Luo Guang seriously, "I want to be an antibiochemical warrior like you." "Okay, I will let the GIMZ team teach you everything about antibiochemical crisis. When you are ready, we BSAA also welcome you to join us." Although Luo Guang invited the other party, he felt that after Shirley finished her training, she would more likely join Tara Sever and Claire to act together. After all, unlike the game, Shirley does not need to complete the task to exchange for her freedom. In other words, the other party has no reason to fight. Meow, Kara's plot was determined when she first appeared. Meow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 535. Luo Guang took Shirley back to the hotel and changed to a double room. This hotel didn't have a family luxury suite with one living room and multiple rooms, so he had to settle for the next best thing. Why couldn't he open 2 luxury suites? Luo Guang did this to protect Shirley. The first thing he did after entering the room was to check the room with a scanner. The surveillance scanner in his hand was no longer the one given by Wang Wei. Now he uses a biochemical scanner with the world's unified standard. This thing with multiple scanning functions can also be used to scan the room to confirm whether there are any surveillance devices. Luo Guang checked the time on his phone and sent a message to Claire. The other party had just finished handling the resettlement of war refugees and sent a text message to Luo Guang that he could talk. Luo Guang called and said in a relatively brisk tone, "Claire, there is a bad news and a good news. Which one do you want to hear? Claire was stunned for a moment. She still thought that the other party would not come to her for no reason and was looking for her because of an urgent matter. But she was still very cooperative, so she chose one and said, "Let's talk about the bad news first." When Luo Guang heard this, his tone immediately became heavy, and he said, "Shirley is in trouble." Shirley, who was sitting aside, waiting for the other party to call her, blinked her eyes and looked at Luo Guang, who looked sad. "Isn't she fine now? And didn't she just say that she would tell Claire a surprise? This is a shock, right?" Obviously, Shirley and Luo Guang had little contact, and she didn't know that the other party would sometimes make such a joke. When Claire heard this, she was stunned as if she had lost her soul. Both sides fell into silence for a while. The solemn atmosphere spread on both sides, and Shirley couldn't bear it, so she shouted loudly, "Claire, I'm fine." Because Shirley shouted from a distance, and the call signal where Claire was not good, Claire didn't recognize that it was Shirley's voice. Luo Guang was not dissatisfied with Shirley's involvement in the prank. His heavy tone disappeared and he said, "But fortunately I arrived in time, so Shirley is very safe now." After hearing this, Claire realized that Luo Guang did it on purpose and said angrily, "This joke is not funny at all." Luo Guang replied, "I'm not kidding. This is indeed what Shirley has encountered recently." Although he persuaded Shirley to go to South Africa with him, he still had to get Claire's consent. As for Leon, he would definitely agree to his suggestion for Shirley's safety. But he was not completely sure whether Claire was willing to separate from Shirley, and if Claire disagreed, Shirley might change her opinion. Nevertheless, his persuading Shirley first was not in vain. Because Shirley's attitude would also change Claire's mind, and this matter mainly affected Shirley. He naturally had to respect the ideas of the parties involved first, otherwise what was the difference between him and those who acted under the banner of "for your own good"? Luo Guang explained, "This kidnapping incident is not just about Shirley. The research institute where you used to visit Shirley was also attacked, and the people inside suffered heavy casualties. I didn't tell you after I took over this incident because you were abroad, and knowing it would only increase your worries. But now that I have perfectly resolved the incident, I naturally have to inform you." After hearing this, Claire knew that Luo Guang had saved Shirley again, which made her anger just rising, unable to vent to Luo Guang. "Don't breathe so hard next time you talk, and don't say that you should be more condolences." In the end, she could only say that it would not happen again. Luo Guang took the step, said sorry, and did not explain too much about his previous behavior. If the other party takes a joke seriously, then no matter how many excuses you make, they are all false, and an apology is the most important thing. He brought the topic back to the purpose of contacting the other party this time, and said, "By the way, the next is good news." "Well? Isn't it good news that Shirley was successfully rescued?" Claire was just about to ask who took Shirley away. She had nowhere to vent her anger, and was planning to find a target to scold. Luo Guang replied, "Aren't you surprised why Shirley is by my side now?" That voice just now was Shirley's. Claire only realized it now, but she quickly thought of a reason. "But you just rescued Shirley, and the institute was attacked again, so it's normal for her to be by your side, right? No more talking, let me talk to Shirley." She wanted to chat with Shirley. Shirley's beautiful big eyes also looked at Luo Guang, silently telling that she also wanted to chat with Claire. Luo Guang looked at Shirley and smiled and said, "Okay, but wait for me to tell you the good news first. Shirley is free." While Claire was stunned and didn't reply, he handed the phone to Shirley. "Claire," Shirley's voice sounded. "I'm here." Claire jumped up and asked with a trembling voice, "Is what Luo Guang said true? Are you really free?" Shirley seemed to be infected by the other party's emotions, her eyes red. "It's true." That's great," Claire cried with joy. "Well, we can meet anytime in the future." The two talked a few more words, and when they were moved, they couldn't help crying. Shirley wiped her tears with the tissue Luo Guang handed her and told Claire about her previous experience in detail. Luo Guang was not impatient. As for the international call charges, no matter how expensive they were nothing to him now, so he would not be stingy with the money. Claire was horrified, especially when she heard about Shirley's experience and fear in the cell. The tears she had just held back flowed again. Shirley was already pitiful enough, and she had to be kidnapped one after another to suffer such disasters that she should not experience at her age. Claire wiped her tears and said, "Where are you now? When I return home, I will hold a celebration party for you." Shirley gritted her teeth and made her decision, "Claire, you are still busy with disaster relief now." Because it was Claire who proposed the rescue of war refugees, Tara Sever would naturally entrust her with important tasks, otherwise the other party would not be qualified to take responsibility when something went wrong. So she couldn't leave at any time as long as she made a report like she did before as a volunteer. Claire paused after hearing this, and realized that he had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders and could not leave easily, so he said, "How about this, you follow Luo Guang first. I will pick you up after I finish my work." Luo Guang heard the words on the phone and thought to himself, is Claire treating him as a nursery? He didn't hate Shirley and didn't want to take care of her, but Shirley was grown up now, and it was always inconvenient to live with him. Although Claire on the other end of the phone couldn't see it, Shirley still shook her head and said, "Brother Luo Guang is also very busy. He is the branch director of BSAA. Claire thought of this after she just said it. And Shirley is no longer a child now, and living with Luo Guang, a big man, also has many inconveniences. At this time, she didn't know that Luo Guang had opened a double room to live with Shirley, otherwise he would definitely get angry and protest. Then, she was about to propose another plan, letting Shirley live in the home of a friend she knew. That friend's family has a child named Lonnie Keela. The other party's family died in the clinical trial of the Indian company Wilf Pharma, and now she is adopted by her aunt in the Lighthouse country. Claire thinks that the two should be able to become good friends." Shirley interrupted, "No, Claire. Listen to me, I have made a decision." Claire did not ask further, but said directly, "I will support you in any decision." After hearing this, Shirley immediately told Luo Guang's suggestions and reasons. Claire compared Luo Guang's suggestions with her previous plan, and had to admit that she didn't think as much as Luo Guang. If Shirley really lives according to her own arrangements, it will give the enemy a chance to kidnap again. Even the well-defended research institute was breached by the enemy, so naturally the ordinary families she knew could not withstand the enemy's attack. She didn't know much about the GIMZ base, she only knew that it was where Jack and Katie lived. Those two people were people Shirley knew, and they could also help Shirley integrate into the environment. Thinking of this, Claire said, "Shirley, since you have made up your mind, I will not stop you. I will come to visit you when I have time." Although being thousands of miles away from Shirley would make her feel a little lonely, it would be too selfish to keep Shirley by her side just for this reason. And now is not the past, he can call Shirley and chat at any time. When Luo Guang heard this, he felt that he had misjudged Claire. The other party recognized the fact that Shirley had grown up earlier than himself, and was willing to let Shirley leave her side and fly freely. "Yeah," Shirley responded happily. After Claire said a word, she handed the phone to Luo Guang. "Luo Guang, I won't say more, Shirley is in your hands. Don't worry, I will protect her." Luo Guang did not make the kind of promise to absolutely protect Shirley. There are too many unexpected things in the world, and he will not make such an impossible promise. Claire also understood this and said, "And, thank you." Although Shirley didn't know and Luo Guang didn't say it clearly, Claire knew that it must be Luo Guang's help that Shirley could get rid of that kind of house arrest. Luo Guang smiled and replied, "You're welcome." After hanging up the phone, Luo Guang contacted Leon again. It was the same process, first sending a text message to see if the other party was free. Leon was busy, but he thought Luo Guang had something special, so he took the opportunity to go to the bathroom to call Luo Guang back. After hearing the news from Luo Guang, he was surprised at first, and then happy, because Shirley finally got rid of Simmons' control. Back then, he became a hostage in Simmons' hands for Shirley, and later by chance he saved the president's daughter Ashley, which made it possible to get out of Simmons' surveillance. When Simmons agreed to Luo Guang's application, he didn't forget about Leon, but with his strength, there was no need to hold on to a small agent. Of course, if he knew the relationship between Leon and Ada, he would definitely not let him go easily. Because Leon was busy, he and Shirley only chatted for a few words, and after confirming the other party's next plan, he hung up the phone. Shirley handed the phone back to Luo Guang and said, "Brother Leon is very busy." Luo Guang shrugged, "There is no way. Now the president of the lighthouse country has entrusted him with important tasks. Biochemical incidents related to the lighthouse country are now basically the responsibility of Lion's DSO. Although Leon is working hard now, he must be enjoying it because his goal is being achieved step by step." After contacting the two of them, Shirley suddenly thought of her previous question and said, "By the way, what happened to Kara?" Luo Guang organized his words before replying, "I don't know the specific situation, but she said that she was poisoned by the kidnappers and injected with some kind of medicine by the enemy, and she woke up like this. Carla now looks exactly like Ada, and he worries that Shirley and Leon have the wrong person. But now Kara won't come out and run around, so he is not in a hurry to tell Leon. He wants to tell him face to face, so he can just tell Shirley for now." Luo Guang said, "According to Kara's words, her current appearance is actually that of another person." He added, "The type that Simmons knows and likes." He then told Shirley what Kara had surmised. "I see, can Kara change back?" Due to her personal experience, Shirley did not know the value of beauty in society. Instead, she felt that it was pitiful for Kara to look like someone else. Luo Guang felt that if the virus used to transform into Ada was indeed developed by Kara herself, then it should be feasible to change back. The problem is that Kara has no reason to change back now. He replied, "She is a genius after all, so she should be able to do it. Hopefully she will succeed. By the way, Kara's current appearance comes from a person named Ada Wang. If you see someone like that in the future, don't rush to recognize her." Luo Guang only stated that Kara's appearance was real, but he did not say anything about the relationship between Ada and Leon. "Is this someone you know, brother Luo Guang?" Shirley felt that the world was really small. "That man is a dangerous person, please be careful." "I see." After Luo Guang asked Shirley to digest the previous information, he also mentioned one more thing, which was the contagiousness of the G virus in the other party's body. He provided a solution, which was to let the Shinra virus enter Shirley's body and transform its G virus. This transformation method is definitely different from Jill and Ashley. Like Hank and Victor, they only need to take the pills he specially prepared. Luo Guang had done so many things for her, so Shirley naturally wouldn't suspect that he was plotting against her, so she just took it and ate it. This made Luo Guang a little worried that Shirley would be deceived by bad men after she came out of society. He thought that he would have to have someone teach him specifically about this in the future. For now, let's focus on transforming Shirley's G virus. Because it is not about letting Shirley's body adapt to the Shinra virus, but letting the Shinra virus transform the G virus in Shirley's body into a virus that is unique to her. Just like Jill and Ashley, the virus in their body cannot survive in other people's bodies. So Shirley didn't faint due to a sudden high fever, she just felt her body was warm. This made her look confused and couldn't help but ask, "Is this okay?" Luo Guang didn't have to close his eyes and concentrate to do this now, and replied, "That's enough." But although the contagion has weakened, you still have to pay attention. Meow, thanks for subscribing and voting. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 536. After Luo Guang and Shirley finished talking, they did not immediately take a plane back to the GIMZ base in South Africa. He took Shirley to handle various exit procedures, buy mobile phone cards, etc. He also bought a few new sets of clothes, and took her to Mickey Mouse amusement park and other places she had always wanted to go. They set off after playing for 4 or 5 days. During this period, Claire still had no time to return home, and Leon happened to be nearby, so he took a break from his busy schedule to see her off at the airport. Luo Guang also took this opportunity to tell him about Kara. The plane arrived in Cape Town safely, and Katie brought Jack to the airport to pick up Luo Guang and Shirley. Jack was so excited that he didn't sleep much these days. As the saying goes, the one who is close to the water gets the moon first, and his chance finally came. In order to show himself, he has been busy cleaning Shirley's room, buying daily necessities, etc. these days. When he met her at the airport just now, he ran over to take the luggage from Shirley's hands as soon as he could with a smile on his face. Katie knew what his son was planning at a glance. But she didn't intervene, as long as Jack didn't do anything wrong. Luo Guang didn't leave immediately after sending Shirley to the base. He first found his Wusong clone and pretended to reminisce about the past. Half an hour later, Luo Guang came to the training ground and found Carlos and others to reminisce about the past and talk about their recent situation. Although Wusong's clone seemed to be a good talker to his subordinates, Luo Guang was worried that they would hide some problems in their hearts because of the superior-subordinate relationship between the two sides. Except for Samus, Jack, Katie, and some ordinary employees, everyone else in the current GIMZ team is infected with his Shinra virus. According to the ability of the Shinra virus, Luo Guang can know everyone's thoughts at any time, but he doesn't want to do so. After all, many of them are his friends and acquaintances. Even if some of them have done wrong things, they can be regarded as making up for their mistakes in GIMZ and have made contributions to antibiochemical. Luo Guang gave them the Shinra virus not to gain anything from them, but just to help them survive various biochemical crises. He learned from the casual chat that most people said that the current situation is pretty good, except Tanya, who is itching to do more large-scale combat missions. But before Luo Guang could reply, Samus, who came over, happened to hear this and lectured Tanya. Combat missions are not risk-free games, and their missions mean that a biochemical crisis has occurred somewhere, which means that someone will suffer. For this, Luo Guang has no good solution for the time being. As he solved Wesker and made BSAA famous, countries are now more inclined to ask them to deal with domestic biochemical crises. Although the GIMZ unit has a good reputation and strong business capabilities, it is still a mercenary organization. The only advantage is that its employment fee is not as high as the sponsorship fee of the BSAA unit. In Africa, because Luo Guang was in charge, all the biohazards were handled by BSAA. The GIMZ troops in Europe could get some small-scale biohazard employment contracts from time to time, which was just right for training new recruits. Luo Guang initially thought that he could not change the plot of the game of Biohazard, so he deliberately created such a mercenary organization and waited for the benefits of FBC and BSAA whale fall. Unexpectedly, after many twists and turns, he became O'Brien's favorite successor. The GIMZ troops actually reaped some of the benefits of the dissolution of FBC. For example, there is no need to think about equipment and weapons. Their main gain is some competence of FBC, so that their European branch now has sufficient manpower to carry out business, and there is no need to send people from the South African headquarters. Although Tanya's idea is not advisable, it does remind Luo Guang. The GIMZ troops should also start to seek transformation or a way out. Although he has enough money to support these elites to deal with some emergency biochemical crises, it is not a good idea to do nothing and train every day. Luo Guang's first idea is to continue to hire BSAA to deal with some biochemical crisis incidents in southern Africa. But biochemical crisis incidents are hard to come by, and it seems that there are not as many biochemical crisis incidents this year as last year. The second idea is that Luo Guang plans to let the GIMZ troops cooperate with Terrasever, and Claire has also expanded Terrasever's business in Pananistan. The local peacekeeping force is also slightly insufficient in manpower, but because their current mission is only to guard the security of the refugee camp, there is no problem for the time being. Or the GIMZ troops can also take advantage of this opportunity to expand their own business. Luo Guang has temporarily decided on these two plans, and the specific implementation will be controlled by Wu Song's clone. After the matter was done, he also stayed to attend Shirley's welcome party and planned to fly back tomorrow. At the party, he couldn't help laughing as he watched Jack jumping up and down like a monkey performing for Shirley. The next morning, Luo Guang talked to Shirley again and saw that she had adapted well and had not suffered from insomnia last night. Finally, after telling Shirley that she could go directly to Boss Wu Song if she had any questions, he waved goodbye. Luo Guang returned to the African branch of BSAA and was stopped by someone before he entered the gate. The man was wearing a mask and a cap, and he didn't look like a good person. "Hello, I'm a private detective, this is my business card. However, you can't judge a person by his appearance." The other party greeted Luo Guang politely and introduced himself. Luo Guang took the other party's card, which was from a local detective agency. In fact, it didn't have a license, but was a self-proclaimed detective agency. "Hello, what can I do for you?" he replied and took the initiative to extend his hand. The other party was a little excited. After wiping his hands, he shook hands with Luo Guang, and then took out an envelope from his pocket. There was no stamp on it, and no information such as the sender was written. Luo Guang took the envelope and asked in confusion, "Who asked you to pass it to me?" The detective said embarrassedly, "In fact, I have been following you for a while." Luo Guang knew this, but he didn't feel any malice from the other party. He was going to the lighthouse country, so he ignored it for the time being to avoid alerting the enemy. The other party said, "I am here to hand over this letter to you." "Why are you telling me this? You are a detective. But you are my savior. When the company was in chaos, I was about to be caught by the zombies. As a result, the zombies suddenly fell down like a kite with a broken string, and I survived." The detective said this very sincerely. He took on this task in order to inform Luo Guang in advance when the client was going to harm his benefactor. As for professional ethics, after handing the letter to Luo Guang this time, the client's work is over, and he did not disclose the client's specific information, right? Luo Guang expressed his gratitude for this. The other party's mention of tracking was actually implying that his client was not his friend. The detective pressed his hat, said goodbye, and left the branch entrance, and the guard in the guard room also retracted his gaze. Luo Guang directly opened the envelope and took out the letter inside to check. "Come to the address here, we have something to talk to you about. If you don't come, I can't guarantee that I won't attack the people you cherish." There was an English address written under this Chinese character. Luo Guang immediately asked Hong Huang to collect information and confirmed that it was an abandoned warehouse. Because of the chaos in the company that year, the entire area was no longer inhabited. After knowing this, Luo Guang also roughly knew that this was a hangmen banquet. No, there was no food in all likelihood, so it was not a hangmen banquet, but a death trap. Thinking about these things, Luo Guang put his luggage in the guard room, then turned around and took a taxi, and did not go upstairs to tell Ashley that he was back. He originally planned to give Ashley a surprise and bought some small gifts, but since the enemy had said so much, he naturally had to solve the other party's problems first. It took about half an hour, and he finally arrived at the place the other party said. The taxi driver was very considerate and asked if he wanted to wait for him. Luo Guang declined the other party, but still asked for the other party's phone number, saying that he would find him if he needed it. There was silence around him, and he pushed open the creaking door and walked in. "You are finally back. We have been waiting for you for a long time." Luo Guang Li Qingxian sat on a chair and looked at the murderer who killed his son. They came here after receiving the information from the detective. There was nothing in the huge warehouse, only a long table, 2 chairs, and a bench. Li Qingxian and his wife Zina sat at one end, and the only bench was placed at the other end, which was probably left for Luo Guang. Luo Guang glanced at the chair and confirmed that there were no needles, no glue, and no traces of the chair legs being cut before sitting on it. Zina expressed disdain for Luo Guang's caution. They were S-level adapters and would not do such cheap things. And these small actions could not cause any harm to them, so she still felt that Luo Guang was losing the face of S-level by being so cautious. If it was before, she might have immediately ridiculed him, but Li Qingxian did not speak, and she did not dare to speak rashly now. In contrast, Li Qingxian admired Luo Guang's caution. S-level adapters are not invincible. They can get hurt and die, so caution is necessary. Luo Guang sat down and asked, "Who are you?" "We are the parents of James Li." Luo Guang looked puzzled and said, "Who is James Li?" Of course he remembered that this was the S-level Apocalypse member. He didn't expect that he really beat the younger one and came to the older one. But the other party certainly had no evidence to prove that he killed James, so he planned to take this opportunity to chat and collect more information. "You don't know him." Zina was stimulated by this, and shouted angrily, "My son was killed by you on the Queen Zenobia." Li Qingxian's heart was full of bitter smiles. His education was really a failure. That precious S-level son actually had no sense of existence in front of the real strong. Luo Guang said in confusion, "Is your son a member of the FBC organization?" Zina believed that the other party was pretending to be stupid. Seeing that her husband did not stop her, she said again, "It's useless for you to pretend. It must be you who did it." Luo Guang waved his hands and said, "You don't have any evidence, how can you confirm that it was me? Don't wrongly accuse good people. I didn't kill the FBC people. When I went there, there were few living people there. They were all bitten to death by biochemical monsters." Zina insisted, "My son will not die at the hands of those trash." Luo Guang sneered, "Trash? Do you mean trash weighing more than 20 tons? What?" Zina was shocked. Li Qingxian interrupted their conversation and said to Luo Guang, "Do you think we are FBC members?" Luo Guang shrugged his shoulders, spread his hands, and said, "If not, it would be even better. This shows that you are those inhuman biochemical terrorists." His sarcastic words made Zina slam the table, but Li Qingxian looked calm. "We are from the Apocalypse organization. You should have heard of this name." Luo Guang did not deny this and nodded. Li Qingxian described his son's appearance again and said, "Although my son is not as skilled as others and deserves to die, I hope you can understand the feelings of us parents. Revenge has never been moral, and it has nothing to do with justice." Luo Guang said, "I understand, but I really didn't kill that man." Although Li Qingxian is an enemy, he doesn't have much disgust for him, but a little respect, so he doesn't say too much trash talk like before. The other party should have been in the city for a long time, so he said he had been waiting for him for a long time. But the other party has been waiting for me to come back, and didn't attack Ashley, and also invited me to come, not to attack me. James mentioned that his parents are both S-level, and the fight between the two sides will definitely affect the surroundings, and I must have more concerns than the other party. Now that he is in a place where there is no one around, he can fight freely." Zina originally did not agree with her husband's above-board approach. Li Qingxian started from the confidentiality of the organization, the confidentiality of their abilities, and the face of his son, so that Xena, who didn't think much, could only accept his arrangement. Li Qingxian sighed and said, "Mr. Luo, I've been very polite. I hope you can tell us the truth instead of saying these words to evade us." Xena clenched her fists and said, "Husband, there's nothing to say to him. Let's get started." Li Qingxian didn't reply, and continued to say to Luo Guang, "First, if you really encounter a whale monster infected with the virus, neither the submarine nor the queen can be intact." He wanted Luo Guang to be convinced. "Second, if my son was buried in the belly of the fish, the intelligence of our organization, especially the intelligence of his relatives and friends, would not be leaked. It was also your handiwork that our family was attacked, right?" Luo Guang fell into thinking for the first time, of course, this was also pretended, and said, "You're right, but I didn't let anyone attack you. He was just a carrier of intelligence, and it was not his decision whether to attack in the end." "Humph, you cunning guy, finally admitted that you killed my son." Xena took the opportunity to curse, but the lethality of English curses was too low, and it couldn't break Luo Guang's thick skin at all. Luo Guang said, "You just say a name, I don't know who you are talking about. I didn't feel anyone special when I was on the mission. Since there is bound to be a fight, trash talk must be arranged." And he analyzed the personalities of the two opponents. Xena has a more irritable personality. In addition, her son was killed by him, which can easily anger the other party and make her lose her cool. Sure enough, Xena was furious when she heard Luo Guang's sarcastic remarks about her son. In an instant, a residual image was left on the spot, and the person had already killed his enemy. James' speed talent was inherited from his mother. With a loud bang, a human-shaped gap appeared in the iron wall on the side. Luo Guang threw away the remaining stool legs and said, "The bench is worthy of being the top 10 weapons in the folk." Meow, thank you for subscribing and voting meow. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Meow. Chapter 537. Xena is very fast, but Luo Guang's reaction is also not slow, and his movement range is shorter, so he strikes first and knocks away the enemy. Li Qingxian stood up with a loud sound and stared at Luo Guang. According to the plan, Xena will use her speed to attack the enemy. If she can kill the enemy with her own hands, that will be the best result. In case the opponent is superior in strength, he can also skim the formation from the side, observe Luo Guang's ability and formulate strategies at the same time. But Luo Guang's action just happened to be blocked by the table, causing him to fail to see the opponent's counterattack. Another point was that he wondered that the bench was just an ordinary wooden material. With Hina's physical strength, it was impossible for her to be knocked away by the bench. Xena ran back quickly and was not seriously injured. She seemed to be unscathed. Li Qingxian asked, "How did you get knocked away by a bench?" He wanted to understand Luo Guang's counterattack, but Xena obviously misunderstood. Xena replied, "Aren't you the one responsible for observation?" "How do I know?" She wasn't angry, she really didn't know. According to her expectation, she should have directly smashed the bench and attacked the enemy, so she naturally did not change her attack route. As a result, the scenery in front of her suddenly changed and she was knocked out of the warehouse. Li Qingxian didn't bother with this question and asked again, "Do you need help?" 2-on-1 is not a shameful thing. He has put aside the dignity of the so-called S-class adapter. "I was just careless." "Just watch and don't let him escape." Xena, who was beaten away, was not convinced and wanted to try again. Naturally, Luo Guang couldn't explain. The woman did break the bench, but her hand holding the foot of the bench was behind the board. He just used his explosive ability to be safe when the enemy smashed the bench, and then shot Xena away. The other party was observing him, and Luo Guang was also observing the two of them. He cares more about Li Qingxian than Xena, who can only use her speed to travel. From what he felt, this man was much stronger than his wife. Luo Guang was thinking about this matter in his mind and did not forget about the fight. Hey, 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 how dare you, a loser like you, come out for revenge? Your son is so weak because he was educated by an incompetent person like you, right? James feels like he is worse than some A-levels I have seen. Naturally, trash talking is also an important part of a fight. Although Li Qingxian also felt that there was a problem with their education that caused his son's death, hearing this still made him feel angry and unhappy. At the same time, he is always ready to help his wife deal with Luo Guang. Xena, who valued the S-class honor, was stimulated by these words, and burst out faster than before, killing Luo Guang again. You have no right to call my son by his name. Luo Guang chose to avoid these attacks and analyzed James' mother's fighting style. The opponent seems to rely heavily on his own speed, and the attack will definitely be accompanied by high-speed movement to enhance the power of the attack. This is understandable, but the opponent's speed changes slightly, and Luo Guang can easily control the pattern. The opponent will definitely increase his speed before attacking him. Li Qingxian observed Luo Guang, and his heart became more and more solemn, because the opponent's defense was so impeccable that his wife could not even touch the skirt of the opponent's clothes. I've already given you 30 moves, so consider it as a thank you for your previous gentlemanly behavior. Luo Guang's unforgiving words concealed his true purpose of not fighting back just now. The reason why I say give up 30 moves is because the enemy is too fast and launched 30 consecutive attacks in an instant. Xena's first attack was easily swatted away by Luo Guang, and other attacks were easily dodged by Luo Guang, making her even more impatient. This made her explosive speed increase again, but Li Qingxian moved and rushed towards Luo Guang at the same time. His instinct told him that if he stopped taking action, his wife would be killed by the other party in one blow. The enemy's speed has become faster, but his habits have not changed, allowing Luo Guang to easily predict where the enemy's head will appear. He punched hard, and when the two sides collided at high speed, this blow would directly blow off Xena's head. For Li Qingxian at ordinary times, 4 or 5 meters is just a distance that can be crossed in an instant. But with everyone moving very fast, these 4 to 5 meters seemed to be a chasm, making it impossible for him to stop Luo Guang's attack. Xena appeared behind Luo Guang and fell to the ground covered in blood, while an arm flew to the other side. Luo Guang punched again, this time fist to fist, knocking Li Qingxia back 2 steps. He immediately started trash talking and said, "You didn't teach James how to fight, right? What a pity. If you had taught him, your son wouldn't have died like an ant. James, like his mother, likes to use his speed to defeat his enemies. There is nothing wrong with this, the problem is that they are too fast and it is difficult to meet their opponents. So they didn't plan on how to fight if the enemy was faster and faster than them." If Xena understood this, she should have changed her strategy and style of play when she was beaten away by Luo Guang for the first time or failed in her second 30-stroke combo, instead of using her own speed to challenge Luo Guang again and again. The limits of light. Li Qingxian did not answer Luo Guang's question. He took 2 steps back, stared at the enemy, and shouted, "Xena, are you okay?" As he spoke, he raised his arm to block Luo Guang's attack and counterattacked with his fist, but was easily avoided by the opponent. Still alive, Xena had an epiphany or some other reason at the last moment, which made her slow down and change her direction of movement at the last moment, and her head dodged Luo Guang's heavy punch. But her left shoulder was still hit by Luo Guang, which directly broke her entire left arm. Xena's recovery ability can only be said to be average. She can stop bleeding, but it takes a little time to regenerate a broken arm. So this kind of injury basically means that she will temporarily withdraw from the battle. Li Qingxian breathed a sigh of relief and focused all his attention on Luo Guang. Although the opponent just launched a sneak attack while he was talking, he was able to block it so easily. It must be that the opponent let him go. Luo Guang now began to evaluate Li Qingxian's combat effectiveness, so he did not go all out. He added, although you didn't attack my girlfriend, I won't let your wife go. Since we are seeking revenge against the organization's requirements, we naturally come with a desperate attitude. Li Qingxian's words inspired Xena to stand up again. Well said, there was no fear in her eyes, and regardless of the injury to her left arm, she held the dagger tightly in her right hand and continued to attack. Cover me, Li Qingxian said, and took the initiative to attack. Luo Guang would not say anything like good job, but just said lightly, come on. The concrete floor under Li Qingxian's feet instantly cracked, and a fist mixed with sonic booms swung over. Luo Guang slapped his defense and jabbed back. Xena wandered around the periphery, trying to make a sound to distract Luo Guang. But Luo Guang could confirm Xena's attack timing through the changes in the opponent's killing intent, so he was not disturbed. It was just that it was difficult for him to deal with Xena, so he deliberately sold a flaw. Rightward arrow. Xena really took the bait and quickly approached by taking advantage of the blind spot of the enemy's close-range battle. She appeared from Luo Guang's left side, and the black dagger went straight to his waist and abdomen, but Luo Guang's left hand suddenly appeared and grabbed her right wrist. Xena was shocked. The enemy obviously didn't focus on her side. Her left hand was also slapping to defend her husband's attack. How could he suddenly grab her hand accurately? Li Qingxian immediately launched a fierce attack, hoping that Luo Guang, who only had one hand left, would let go of his wife. How could Luo Guang let the other party do what he wanted? He had already completed the force action to resist the other party's attack. Xena's sword, he shouted, grabbing the other party's wife and sweeping across. Li Qingxian could block this attack, but his body was much harder than Xena's. If the two sides collided, his wife would definitely suffer, so he could only give up the strong attack and avoid the attack. Luo Guang ignored Xena's struggle, rushed up and used a move to split Huashan. Xena was hit hard on the ground by Luo Guang, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Li Qingxian felt sorry for his wife, but he was powerless for a while and couldn't think of a solution. Xena knew her husband's dilemma and wanted to break free by herself, but her remaining hand had been captured by Luo Guang, and the other party deliberately swung it around so that she couldn't exert force, so she also had no way to solve this problem and could only bear it. Luo Guang was not gentle with women, and played Xena like a windmill, hitting the ground in various ways. Li Qingxian made up his mind and stopped avoiding. He found the right opportunity and broke his wife's right arm with one punch. Seeing his Xena sword flying behind the opponent, Luo Guang directly dropped the broken arm in his hand and attacked Li Qingxian. Li Qingxian wanted it very much and took the initiative to meet Luo Guang. But Luo Guang was just a feint. His real target was Xena lying on the ground behind the opponent. Damn it, Li Qingxian wanted to chase him, but found that Luo Guang's speed was faster than he had seen before. Ah, Xena wailed in pain. Her legs were twisted off by Luo Guang, and then her long legs were thrown to Li Qingxian. The seriously injured Xena fainted. Li Qingxian looked at his wife who had lost her limbs, and his anger was hard to suppress, but the opponent held Xena's neck and raised her up, so he dared not act rashly. Let her go. What kind of man are you? Luo Guang, who felt like a villain now, did not continue to attack and said, she is still alive. But if you lose next, your wife will also die, so can you make me excited? After that, he threw Hina aside. He seemed to suddenly remember something and said, I am still a member of the Apocalypse organization, but unfortunately I am like a kite with a broken string and can't go back. Li Qingxian looked at Hina who was unconscious on the side, took a deep breath and muttered, the opposite direction of the evolutionary path is not a retreat, but a cliff. Luo Guang raised his eyebrows and killed immediately. The other party looked like a protagonist who wanted to explode, so he decided to attack immediately. A dull voice sounded. Li Qingxian's eyes turned cold when he looked at Luo Guang at this time, without anger, and blocked Luo Guang's attack at a speed that surpassed the previous one. Both sides refused to give in, threw away defense, and punched each other. Li Qingxian suddenly moved, stepped back a few steps, adjusted his gait, and killed again. The current Li Qingxian is the real him. The self who ignored everything on the battlefield is back. His normal speed has become faster than Hina, so Luo Guang, who was careless and did not dodge, can only use his crossed arms to block the enemy's punch to the face. This time, Luo Guang was beaten back, leaving 2 break marks on the ground. Luo Guang used the 2-character clamp sheep horse to stop his retreat. He was not surprised. Without such strength, how could the opponent give him a sense of danger? It seems that you don't care so much about your wife, otherwise, with your strength, there is no need. Li Qingxian rushed over directly, punching with both fists, and attacking fiercely like a storm with sharp kicks. Luo Guang was calm and composed, and he swung a heavy punch with great force, ready to break through the surface. Li Qingxian turned his fist into a claw and wanted to use a grappling hand. Luo Guang was well prepared. His arms were covered with hardened armor with barbs, which directly made several wounds on his hands. The greater effect was to prevent the opponent from fully exerting force to block his heavy punch. Li Qingxian didn't care about the barbs and directly pulled his hands back. The wounds on both hands were instantly repaired, but the collapse of his chest was still obvious. His heart was broken, and it would take some time to recover. Luo Guang would not miss this opportunity and immediately stepped forward to beat the dog in the water. Li Qingxian was seriously injured without a sound, and his face did not change at all, as if he was not the one who was at a disadvantage. The heart is like the engine of a car. After temporarily losing his heart, he could only barely protect his vital parts when he activated the enhanced Luo Guang. Luo Guang was not anxious and continued to suppress the opponent. Li Qingxian endured silently. The wounds on his body became more and more, which made his heart recover slowly. Luo Guang did not take it lightly, because he found that the skin on the opponent's body was getting hotter and harder, just like the steel he was forging. Li Qingxian's arms, which were originally put away for blocking, were put in an attacking posture, ignoring Luo Guang who was still attacking and launched a counter-attack. Luo Guang immediately retreated and did not exchange injuries for injuries. Although his endurance attribute related to recovery ability is the highest, he would not be bored to test his ability to bear injuries. Being injured is always painful. Li Qingxian's whole body was red, and the blood and sweat on his body were evaporated by the high temperature of the epidermis. He was like being shrouded in steam at this time. Luo Guang shook his hands and said, "I just warmed up, why are you burning up?" Except for the tights specially made by the Apocalypse organization in his body, the ordinary clothes and hair on Li Qingxian's body were ignited by the high temperature of his body surface. His strength and speed have reached the peak level of Wesker. Li Qingxian ignored his trash talk again, held his breath and launched another attack, and his speed and strength were improved again. He now has 4 more small hearts in his body. This is his body that grows autonomously according to the current situation, temporarily replacing the heart that is still under repair. Luo Guang's enhanced abilities are all turned on, and the two sides fight again. Xena, who woke up, looked at her husband who was covered with wounds and was beaten away, and she felt bad. She couldn't help but regret that she didn't obey the organization's orders and didn't listen to her husband's advice, which made them fall to this point. Her husband's strength is really much stronger than hers. Li Qingxian's words that he had always let her were not a lie, and she felt even more guilty when she thought of this. Although her husband was already so powerful, he was now at a disadvantage, and she had become a burden early on, and could only lie on the ground and watch the enemy catch up with her husband who was beaten away. Xena watched Li Qingxian being hit into the air by Luo Guang and performing various combos, unable to land, and she couldn't help but become pessimistic. "Are we going to die here today?" "Meow," Thank you for subscribing and voting me out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 538. Li Qingxian, who was being hit by Luo Guang in the air, did not give up hope. He was the kind of person who became more courageous as he fought more. Every time he was in a desperate situation, as long as he could not be killed, he would only become stronger. As long as he maintained a strong will to survive and did not give up, the virus in his body would respond to his expectations and burst out with infinite possibilities. The virus in his body would provide relative mutations according to the ongoing battle. For example, Li Qingxian's physical fitness was now behind Luo Guang, and his fighting skills honed on the battlefield did not benefit him in front of Luo Guang. So the virus in his body was strengthening the host's defense capabilities while improving its strength and speed. The activation speed of this ability was actually not slow, but Luo Guang happened to destroy Li Qingxian's heart, which slowed down the mutation speed a lot. On the other hand, Li Qingxian's ability was time-limited. As long as he stopped fighting, he would soon return to his original appearance, but every time he returned, he would be a little stronger than before. Looking only at physical ability, his initial value was only at the lower level of S level, but with his training on the battlefield, his basic physical level has now reached the middle level. I want to become stronger, Li Qingxian shouted in his heart, wanting to get the strength to defeat the enemy in front of him. Luo Guang covered his hands with hardened armor gloves that could resist high temperatures. He knocked Li Qingxian, who was shouting in his heart, to the ground with one punch, ending the 999 combo. He landed gently and glanced at Hina. The other party had woken up, but could not move for a while. Her eyes were full of fear when she looked at him. Then he looked back at Li Qingxian, who was lying on the ground. The other party had been curled up to protect the vital parts of his body, so he was still alive. Luo Guang naturally let him go, so he didn't go over to finish him off. Li Qingxian's muscles bulged, and the whole person swelled to 2.8 meters tall. His tights were also torn apart by the swollen muscles, and he looked like a red giant. The most important thing was that the other party's previous injuries were completely recovered. Now he has 1 big and 4 small hearts, a total of 5 hearts, which provide him with powerful power. But Li Qingxian did not continue to fight, but stretched out his palm forward, and a bloody mouth appeared in the palm of his hand. After he aimed, flames spurted out of his bloody mouth. Luo Guang naturally would not be hit, and he directly distanced himself to avoid the opponent's flame spray. I will not lose, Li Qingxian panted, and the current red giant form was the answer given to him by the virus in his body. But it was too much of a burden for him to squeeze the energy in his body to repair his body in an instant. Although Li Qingxian had 4 more hearts, energy would not appear out of thin air, so he would not be able to maintain this appearance for too long. The strength of his current form has surpassed his previous self at any time, making him full of confidence in defeating the enemy. While hiding from the attack, Luo Guang shook his head and said, "The time is up, and you are the loser." As soon as the voice fell, Li Qingxian's body seemed to be deflated, and returned to its original size. The bloody mouth on his palm also disappeared, leaving no scars. The expression on Li Qingxian's face, who looked paralyzed, finally changed. He was shocked and suddenly could not feel the surging power in his body. In Luo Guang's opinion, this battle had lost its chance of winning since Hina and Li Qingxian were injured, so he did not attack the enemy's head except for the killing move at the beginning. In major movies and TV series, most types of zombies have an ability, which is to turn normal humans who are bitten and scratched into their own kind. Luo Guang is not a zombie, but as a virus carrier, he also has the same ability, but most of the enemies he faced before were not qualified to be controlled by him with this trick. As for why he did not infect Wesker in this way before, in addition to the fact that the other party embarked on the path of researching parasites, another point is that the Shinwei parasite will affect the stability of his control over Wesker. The harm caused by Wesker in the company's chaos is much greater than in the game. If he had solved Wesker in Antarctica at the beginning, these people would not have died. Luo Guang once thought so. It doesn't matter if he is both a leader and a traitor, but at least he has to avenge the victims and completely solve Wesker. So from all aspects, Wesker must die that time. Back to this battle. This time, Li Qingxian and Xena's fighting power is stronger than James. There is no need to say much about Li Qingxian. Although Xena's attack lacks variety, it is because she is too fast and has never encountered an opponent, so she cannot be effectively developed. In fact, the opponent has also received professional training and actual combat, but because of childbirth, her training and actual combat time is far less than Li Qingxian. It is undeniable that Li Qingxian and Xena both underestimate Luo Guang, a wild S-level adapter without a sect or school. The two have lived too many good days. Even if Li Qingxian has come to his senses and wants to move forward under the guidance of his superiors, the time wasted before will not be reversed. His ability to change on the spot is very powerful. This red giant form has surpassed Luo Guang in the enhanced state in speed and strength, but it is still far from Luo Guang's limit. Don't forget that in addition to strengthening, Luo Guang can also enter the burst state to improve his basic physical attributes again, and he still has many attack methods that have not been used, such as his lightning attack. However, these are not the key to Luo Guang's victory in this battle. Because he didn't know the enemy's intelligence this time, he only knew that the enemy was an S-level adapter, so he played a trump card when he first tested the enemy. While he was hurting Li Qingxian and Xena, he also injected the body fluid with the Shinra virus into the enemy's body. Not only to defeat the enemy, Luo Guang also hoped to let the two provide him with more information, and then the two would become his undercover in the Apocalypse organization. The S-level privilege is the best cover for these two undercovers. In fact, what he is doing now is not much different from what the Apocalypse organization has done, except that he uses the Shinra virus and the enemy uses memory surgery. At this time, the unknown virus in Li Qingxian's body has been devoured by the Shinra virus. Luo Guang didn't reveal it before because he found that the enemy had an unknown virus in his body. So he controlled the Shinra virus to copy Li Qingxian's gene fragments, deceived the unknown virus and immune system in his body, and then stole the energy that the enemy desperately produced to restore and strengthen his body. The Shinra virus secretly increases its number, and then when Li Qingxian turns into a red giant, it uses his powerful blood circulation ability to spread its army all over his body and quickly devour the unknown virus in his body. If Li Qingxian's original physical fitness was not bad, his body would collapse when he lost his strength because he could not bear the red giant form. Li Qingxian looked incomprehensible, and an irresistible feeling of fatigue surged up, causing him to lose consciousness instantly and faint from exhaustion. Luo Guang first recovered a part of the Shinra virus that had devoured the unknown virus from Li Qingxian and brought it back for analysis. Begin to analyze the unknown virus. Analysis is completed, and a virus with a matching degree of 98.6% is found in the database. This matching degree is too high, Luo Guang thought in surprise. Although it is not 100%, it is basically certain that this is the same virus. So the name of this virus decided to use the name of the virus matched in the database, Forced Evolution Virus, referred to as FEV virus. Never mind, continue to analyze. Luo Guang shook his head and gave an order. The name of this virus is still quite intimidating. Judging from Li Qingxian's performance, this virus can indeed make people stronger. However, he did not have much hope for this virus, because the Sleeping God virus he had obtained had similar abilities. Analysis completed. Except for willpower, all other attributes have improved a little. Luo Guang checked the attribute table while silently reciting his changes in his mind. For skills, I will choose radiation immunity. I can also use radiation energy to accelerate my recovery speed, so I have one less weakness. In fact, there is another unique skill, but the side effects are a bit big, so Luo Guang did not choose it. Perfect body. The whole body cells of the adapter will change and reach a state that is infinitely close to perfection, but the adapter will change from a human to an unknown species. Luo Guang rarely sees or hears the word perfect from the system, which indirectly shows that the effect of this skill must be very powerful, but there is a bold sentence after this content. Therefore, there will be reproductive isolation between the adapter and humans. This situation is just the conclusion drawn by the system based on analysis. Li Qingxian definitely doesn't have a system, so the potential of this FEV virus should not be fully stimulated, and naturally there is no perfect body, otherwise there is no need to constantly strengthen himself in battle. On the other hand, Li Qingxian is already married and has children, and there is no infertility. As for the possibility that James is not his son, Luo Guang feels that the Apocalypse organization will not allow such a thing to happen. So the other party cannot reflect what is going on with this perfect body, and he can only test it himself. As a result, Luo Guang found that the chromosomes of his cells would change from 23 pairs to 26 pairs, which should be the main reason for reproductive isolation. After thinking again and again, he decided to give up the fusion skill. Although this side effect is great, he can produce the old version of genetic material through autonomous restoration, so infertility will not really occur. It's just that he doesn't believe in the so-called perfection, but thinks that this will block his way to break through himself, so he only lets the system retain the relevant information. After fusing this FEV virus, Luo Guang went to Xena's body to recover another unknown virus, which also highly matches the system's database. Its name is Speed, which is a hybrid virus with obvious traces of artificial synthesis. According to the analysis, the main effect of this virus is to improve the flexibility of the infected, and it is obviously specially made for Xena's talent. In the end, this virus improved Luo Guang's flexibility a little, and did not provide any useful active and passive skills. This does not mean that the quality of the speed virus is very poor. It's just that Luo Guang's flexibility is very high, and it is rare to increase it a little. After Luo Guang dealt with the fusion virus, he prepared to interrogate Li Qingxian and Xena. Xena woke up first, and when she opened her eyes, she saw Li Qingxian being held by Luo Guang's neck, and her heart skipped a beat. "If you don't want him to die, you'd better answer my questions obediently." Luo Guang said the same words as the villain. "I will never tell it even if I die." Li Qingxian will not want to reveal the secrets of the organization. Xena's words sounded firm, but the balance in her heart had long been leaning towards her husband. The seeds of hatred planted by Luo Guang in her heart began to sprout, making her resent the Apocalypse organization. This is an attempt at control combined with his emotional abilities, which is equivalent to an upgraded version of suggestive control. This method of stimulating resentment when the other party recalls the Apocalypse organization, thereby influencing the other party's thoughts, is less likely to arouse people's subconscious resistance than hypnosis and suggestion guidance at the psychological level. If the Apocalypse organization takes the initiative to help them avenge themselves, they won't have these troubles, and they can successfully get their revenge. That's what Xena thinks now. At the same time, a bold plan emerged in her mind. That is to let Luo Guang go find trouble with the Apocalypse organization, and then the organization will have no choice but to eradicate Luo Guang personally. In Xena's view, Luo Guang is definitely no match for the entire Apocalypse organization and will definitely be killed. If the Apocalypse organization wants to capture Luo Guang, it will definitely have to pay a heavy price, so she can take advantage of this. This plan can be described as killing two birds with one stone. Luo Guang sensed the other party's hesitation and made a lewd voice, he. "I am a compassionate person, but I can't bear to let you die like this. Since you are willing to sacrifice your life for the Apocalypse organization, I won't be polite." As he approached, he specifically added, "By the way, I wonder what your husband would think when he wakes up and sees that scene? Ha ha ha. Don't come over. Xena looked frightened, but her limbs hadn't recovered yet and she couldn't run away at all. Luo Guang felt that what he was doing was a bit disgusting, but he still approached the other party with a wicked smile. His acting skills were very good. I said. Don't come over. Hina was frightened and couldn't see through Luo Guang's acting skills at all, so she had no choice but to give in. Luo Guang was not interested in the history of the Apocalypse organization, so he first asked the other party to talk about the so-called new era of the Apocalypse organization. Xena replied, I don't know. My husband doesn't know either. Only the 12 seats of the organization know about the new era. Luo Guang noticed the words he heard for the first time and asked, what are the 12 seats? Xena spared the other party from asking questions and started directly with the organizational structure of the Apocalypse. Of course she would think so because of Luo Guang's influence. Members of our organization are divided into two categories. Members like me adopt a hierarchical system. The 12 seats will determine the level and authority of each member based on his ability and merit. The lowest is D level and the highest is S level. These 12 seats are all proposed by S-class adapters. Their affairs are also confidential from us S-class, but judging from the situation over the years, they are probably also S-class. Xena felt that the reason why the 12 seats always recognized the existence of S-class privileges was to protect themselves. Rights and interests. How's the combat effectiveness? Luo Guang is more concerned about this, because he knows that he will definitely face these enemies on his way to destroying the Apocalypse organization without thinking too much. They have never taken action. By the way, the 12 seats have their own code names. They will choose from words related to numbers. If the numbers are the same, they will be written in different ways. This information is not of much use. Numbers can be said to be global fonts, so these code names cannot represent anything. Are these the leaders of your organization? Yes, major matters of the organization are decided in their meetings. Xena said everything. Luo Guang nodded, but did not completely believe the news. After all, the 4 heavenly kings also have a 5th person, so who knows whether the real leader of the Apocalypse organization will be a guy named 13th Seed. Meow, thanks for subscribing and voting meow. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Meow. Chapter 539. After Luo Guang learned about the general situation of members like Xena and others and the tasks that people at each level need to undertake, he then asked, what is the situation of the other members? They usually act as Organization X and know nothing about the Apocalypse organization. Are these people peripheral personnel of your organization? When Luo Guang said this, he suddenly thought of something. The Apocalypse organization and the Family organization have the same code name, Organization X. So will the two organizations regard each other's people as their own? Anyway, these people are all called members of Organization X, and none of them know the real name of their organization. Perhaps it is because of this that the Apocalypse organization has never been discovered by the Family organization? Xena didn't know what Luo Guang was thinking, so she just nodded and replied, yes. But they are also important to the organization, because they are responsible for providing all activity funds and various resources of our organization. But in the eyes of those people, they are all formal members of the organization, so they are loyal. Luo Guang asked again, what level are they? If I have to say it, they are all E level. Xena knew what the other party would ask, so she said first, none of their bodies have any adaptability. If they don't have any adventures in this life, they will basically be cut off from the possibility of evolution. Does your so-called evolution rely on various biochemical viruses? This statement is not accurate. We are also studying things like biological bacteria. What about the biochemical parasites? You mean the Plaka parasite? We haven't studied that thing. Xena said this with a little disgust on her face. She then explained the reason, Are we still ourselves after being parasitized by Plaka? The Institute has never been able to confirm this, so it didn't use this thing. Luo Guang also had the same idea about the Plaka parasite. If you take this path, will you be the one who becomes stronger in the future, or will you be the parasite in your body? Will the two sides merge together in the end? And at that time, whose thinking will take the lead? Precisely because he thought about various problems, he did not try to fuse when he encountered the Plaka parasite, and finally chose the path of viruses. Luo Guang looked at Xena and said, "Let's continue talking about those E-level things. They are just like ants in our S-class. That's all I know. Workers work hard every day to get their bosses to buy a Porsche, right?" Luo Guang, a former social worker, immediately thought of this joke. Although Xena didn't quite understand what Luo Guang meant, she saw that the other party's face was not kind and she didn't say anything more. "Back to business," she said, "they have a good job. Our Apocalypse organization will also arrange a direct leader for them, just in case anything happens to the Apocalypse organization." Temporary security base, Luo Guang thought of the Boston bombing. Xena was not surprised by Luo Guang's words and said, "This is one of the more important ones, so we will send B-level personnel to manage it. However, the decision to blow up the entire base does not lie with these B-class people." "I understand." Luo Guang then asked a lot of questions, making sure that the other party told everything he knew. Suddenly, he asked, "What does the Apocalypse organization think of me? If Hina hates herself so much, she will definitely check the latest information about herself." Haha, the other party sneered and said, "I found a lot of interesting things from your information files." Luo Guang didn't reply, looking coldly at Xena, who suddenly floated up. Ahem, the other party cleared his throat and said without further ado, "You were just an A-level adapter in our organization at the beginning. Unexpectedly, you actually broke through your own limits and evolved into an S-level adapter." Evolve? That's right. Under normal circumstances, no matter what they do, no matter how many biochemical viruses they fuse, A-level adapters cannot break through to the S-level. And you are the second special case in the history of our organization. Speaking of this, Xena realized that she had not seen any special abilities from Luo Guang until now, and she couldn't help but have a terrifying thought in her heart. Luo Guang learned about the other party's thoughts through the Shinra virus, but he did not ask, allowing the other party to continue to misunderstand that his body might not have been modified by the virus. He continued the topic and said, "But I feel that this kind of thing should be very common for your Apocalypse organization, otherwise how could you have left me alone all these years?" Wang Wei suddenly evacuated without completing her mission. Then after he became S-class, shouldn't the people from the Apocalypse organization come to him to continue his relationship? Xena knew the reason. This starts with the fact that you are A-level. As an S-class person, she has higher authority to know more confidential matters. Luo Guang listened attentively and was full of curiosity. Xena said, "Although you were only A-level at the time, our organization discovered that your gene fragments can make up for the genetic defects of the S-level Wang family. S-class has never been synonymous with perfection, and genetic defects do not mean there will be congenital diseases. The specific principle is actually very similar to the reason for prohibiting inbreeding. Because both parties have the same genetic defects, the genetic defects in the offspring of inbreeding will be amplified, resulting in a greatly increased probability of congenital diseases in the offspring." Luo Guang did not ask these understandable questions and listened intently to what the other party said next. "So they sent their most promising daughter here, with the purpose of repairing the genetic defects of their family and cultivating stronger offspring." Without the other party's detailed explanation, Luo Guang also knew that the purpose of the Wang family sending Wang Wei here was to obtain the genetic factor. After all, the other party did not hide this purpose from the beginning. Xena continued, "As a result, the people sent by the Wang family returned empty-handed. Why didn't you take compulsory measures to capture me? Two reasons. The first is that you were still very weak at that time, and Wang Wei was also training and had not been strengthened by the virus. Neither of you has reached your upper limit, so the organization let Wang Wei become stronger with you. Wang Wei can only give birth once, so there is naturally no need to wait until both parties are the strongest before taking action. It's just that according to the test of the Apocalypse organization, after both parties reach the upper limit, the probability of the offspring being S level is the highest. So she and the organization let it go and didn't force it? Xena thought that the Wang family's education method was very different from her own, and they would never relax their children's training just because their children were talented. She was full of bitterness. If she did the same, James' chance of survival. I understand. But I'm S level now, isn't that strong enough? Luo Guang interrupted the other party's thoughts of missing his son, saying that he was still wondering why the Apocalypse organization didn't get in touch with him again. Xena retracted her thoughts and said, this involves the second reason. The Wang family used your DNA collected before to clone and extract your genetic material. Because the new era is coming. Yes, I am sure that the Wang family chose to give up waiting for your growth in order for their family to have a place in the new era. Xena paused and said, I checked your family tree and found that you are now the father of dozens of children, so the Wang family doesn't need to wait for you to marry into the family to improve their genes. These children are not born by Wang Wei, but non-core members of the Wang family. These people have no spouses or husbands, and they are all used as test subjects by the head of the Wang family. The head of the family also promised them that Luo Guang would give them a status after joining the Wang family and let them enjoy a luxurious life. Luo Guang never expected that he would suddenly become a father, and the father of dozens of children. Back to your previous question, according to the test, the genetic defects of these children have indeed been improved, which naturally increases the probability of S-level babies. Luo Guang thought to himself, it means that the delivery rate has been increased. Xena concluded, from this aspect, their goal has been achieved. Is that why they didn't rush to catch me? That's right. But they probably didn't think you would grow up to this point. The Wang family's precious daughter has now sealed the task of recruiting you into the organization. She should want to wait until you mature before taking you away as a son-in-law. Xena looked at the enemy in front of her with gloating, and said, at that time, not only will your memory be modified, but also the women you have had relationships with will be taken away and reallocated to other men. Oh, if there are children, they will probably be thrown into an orphanage after testing their adaptability. Ha ha ha. Luo Guang slapped Xena, letting her put away her gloating. He understood a lot of things from these words, such as how the Apocalypse organization deals with captured people. The more he learned, the more he understood the evil of the Apocalypse organization, which claims to be a service for human evolution. However, when it comes to this matter, he thought of memory modification technology and asked Hina. Hina told everything, thinking that only in this way could the enemy give the Apocalypse organization a little blow. Under the influence of Luo Guang, she never thought of the possibility that the Apocalypse organization did not need to eliminate Luo Guang, and could use him to knock him out and modify his memory. Or even if she thought of it, she would only ignore this possibility. After Luo Guang confirmed the existence of this technology, he asked about the beekeeper organization, but Hina didn't know much about it. She only knew that her organization created such an organization to operate in the open, and she didn't know the specific purpose. Next, Luo Guang continued the game of You Ask Me, and asked about the follow-up of the James incident. He realized that the other two came to take revenge without the consent of the Apocalypse organization. No wonder Li Qingxian wanted to handle this matter in a low-key manner. In this case, he had to make up a story about the two of them escaping death. After Luo Guang made sure that the other party had told him everything he knew, he knocked him out. He just made the move to knock him out, but it was the Shinra virus in his body that really made him faint. Then Luo Guang woke up Li Qingxian and played the villain again, saying that if you don't obey, your wife will have to be taken care of by me. What did you do? Why did I lose my strength? Li Qingxian focused on himself. I didn't do anything, Luo Guang said calmly. Why don't you ask yourself how many years it has been since you last did such intense exercise? Your body can't stand it, right? Li Qingxian looked dazed and unbelieving, but no matter what, he didn't feel the power hidden in his body now. If you want to live with your wife now, there is only one choice. Ask. Li Qingxian lowered his head. From Hina's words, Luo Guang learned a lot about the other party. From Li Qingxian's sudden rise in front of his wife and what happened afterwards, it seems that strength is the source of his confidence. So Li Qingxian was confident that he could defeat him openly. Under the influence of Luo Guang's remedy, the other party's pessimism was constantly magnified, and now he seemed to have lost his soul. Most of the things were answered by Hina, and what he wanted to know most now was the beekeeper organization. Li Qingxian paid more attention to these things than his wife. What is the purpose of your establishment of the beekeeper organization? Those people are victims of the biochemical crisis. How did you trick them into joining? Luo Guang did not tell the memory modification technology he knew from Hina. Because the other party's fighting appearance was too cold, like an emotionless killer, so he planned to test it first. Li Qingxian recalled and told the information he knew. The beekeeper organization is the tentacles of the apocalypse organization that stretched out from the deep water. The apocalypse organization triggers biochemical crises to force out human potential, and believes that those who can survive this crisis have certain abilities. Then the organization will secretly track and abduct these people for adaptability testing. Those with D level or above adaptability will undergo memory modification surgery to allow them to join the apocalypse organization. And those who are not adaptable will also have their memories modified to make them members of the beekeeper organization to ensure that no life is wasted. These people are not even peripheral members of the apocalypse organization, and are cannon fodder that can be abandoned at any time. So even if so many members of the beekeeper organization were captured, the apocalypse organization has never sent anyone to rescue them. Li Qingxian said, our goal is to find more adapters in this way to expand the organization's manpower. The apocalypse organization is not for killing people, so they use more conventional types such as T-viruses to trigger biochemical crises. Are you short of manpower? Luo Guang thought that the apocalypse organization was a secret organization about the same size as the X organization. Li Qingxian shook his head and replied, I don't think we are short of manpower. Although our organization is cautious and more concerned about keeping secrets, the manpower is divided into two sides. The next words the other party said were almost the same as what Hina said. He paused and said, I think the apocalypse organization did this because of the new era. Li Qingxian unconsciously said the information that he could not say, so that Luo Guang could confirm that he had successfully controlled the other party. He asked, why do you think so? Li Qingxian replied, because this violates the principle of our organization's cautious confidentiality. It is true that memory surgery is very convenient, but there have been cases where the original memory was suddenly restored, and we did not find the reason afterwards. The human body still has many secrets and various possibilities. Luo Guang did not understand much about this memory surgery, but the other party's words also alerted him. However, he can monitor those who have the Shinra virus in their bodies at any time. For convenience, he set a few keywords for the virus to remind him, so that he does not have to monitor it 24 hours a day. The purpose of the existence of the beekeeper organization is not complicated, and Luo Guang has nothing to ask, so he asks Li Qingxian and Hina the same questions again. The two of them care about their own organizations to different degrees, and the information Xena gets may be inaccurate, so Luo Guang has to reconfirm it. After confirming that everything is correct, Luo Guang asked Li Qingxian about the members and bases of the Apocalypse organization he knew. After recording, he did not immediately hand it over to the X organization, so that Simmons would continue to work hard to attack the Apocalypse organization. The previous incident of James Lee leaking the organization's secrets has attracted the attention of the Apocalypse organization. This can be explained by the fact that James is spoiled and can't stand torture. But Li Qingxian and the two veteran members will also be forced to reveal information by him, which will definitely arouse the suspicion of their organization. So Luo Guang is going to let the undercover collect enough information this time to try to solve the entire Apocalypse organization at one time. Meow, thank you for subscribing and voting meow. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Meow. Chapter 540. Li Qingxian woke up from his deep sleep. He was too tired. When he stood up, his legs were weak for a moment, as if he had been exercising all night in bed. He walked towards the beauty beside him, who was his wife. "Are you awake? Are you feeling better?" Zena's legs had recovered, but they were not yet fully healed. She opened her hazy eyes, and she had not heard Li Qingxian's words clearly. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. "Are you feeling better?" Li Qingxian asked again in a tired voice, and then said, "The enemy is still chasing us, we can't stay here for too long." Because of this, Zena would prioritize restoring her legs, so that Li Qingxian would not have to carry her on his back to escape. "Damn you," Zena cursed and replied, "I don't have enough energy now. Growing my legs back is the limit." In short, she was hungry and needed to recover energy through additional means such as eating. "I'll find a way to go out and find something to eat." Be careful, the two's mobile phones were destroyed and the cash was also damaged in the battle, so they were penniless now. Li Qingxian could only use some illegal means. "Don't worry, that guy can't catch up with my speed," Zena said angrily. "If I hadn't been careless, I wouldn't be so passive now." She still remembered that her husband was defeated in order to protect her. Li Qingxian sighed and said, "Me too, otherwise we could get away even if we couldn't kill Luo Guang." He recalled the previous battle, when his wife took the lead. Luo Guang grabbed Zena's arm at the cost of a knife in the abdomen. Zena, who lost her speed, couldn't beat the opponent at all. Even if she went to help immediately, Zena still had a broken leg by Luo Guang. According to Hina's recovery ability, fractures can be recovered quickly, but Luo Guang grabbed Hina and beat her alone, and even tore off her legs. Li Qingxian's strength lies in the reversal of desperate situations. Luo Guang directly ignored his attack, which made the virus in his body unable to trigger the ability at all. In the end, he could only watch Luo Guang tear off his wife's long legs. Luo Guang, who had crippled Hina, immediately turned to deal with Li Qingxian. Hina was temporarily unable to move and basically lost her combat ability. Luo Guang would naturally not let this go. As long as he was at a disadvantage, he would attack Hina, making Li Qingxian tired of protecting his wife and finally seriously injured. In the end, the virus in the body of the seriously injured Li Qingxian began to take effect, making his speed surpass everyone present, but Luo Guang's defense was too strong, and he could not solve the enemy for a while. Seeing that Luo Guang was thinking about using Hina as a shield, Li Qingxian had no choice but to flee with his wife. They had been fleeing for 3 days, and their goal was to go to the base of the Apocalypse organization for help. Now that their lives were in danger, the two had no intention of not letting the organization know that they had disobeyed orders. But this area was considered Luo Guang's territory, so they were caught up by Luo Guang several times, and the two sides naturally fought again. Li Qingxian and Zena had not rested or eaten well in the past few days, and fighting and post-war recovery would consume a lot of energy, so they naturally did not have enough energy in their bodies. The two regretted their actions together, and Li Qingxian was the first to cheer up. "Let's focus on escaping now, I'll go out first." "Where else are you going?" a strange voice suddenly sounded. Li Qingxian and Zena immediately looked nervously at the door, where the voice came from. The two of them were sweating profusely, and they didn't notice anyone standing at the door. Indeed, Li Qingxian and Xena were very tired, but because Luo Guang was chasing them relentlessly, they were still very vigilant. Especially Li Qingxian, who had similar experiences, would not let his guard down so easily. This shows one thing, that is, the person who came was stronger than Luo Guang, so he could deceive their perception and come to the door quietly. Li Qingxian had some expectations in his heart. Although the other party came suddenly, he did not behave like an enemy, otherwise he would have just sneak attacked, and there was no need to remind him. Hina, who was used to a good life, did not want to live this kind of life of escape anymore, and did not want to see Luo Guang's face. The person outside the door said coldly, "Sent by the organization, you will really cause trouble for the organization." He did not expect that he would come to Africa to help the poor, and suddenly receive a task from the organization. He did not expect that the two S-level adapters of his own organization would be beaten and fled, becoming wanted criminals. That's right, Luo Guang used his influence to make these two people suspects in the warehouse burning case. So although he was slower than Li Qingxian and the others, he still successfully located and caught up with the two through the reporting calls from enthusiastic people. Although Li Qingxian was looking forward to it, he did not knock on the door directly. He first exchanged conventional codes with the other party, and only opened the door after confirming that it was correct. "Wang Yutang, I came here to pick you up this time." The contact person came straight to the point and introduced himself. Li Qingxian was surprised and asked, "Are you from the Wang family?" Wang Yutang frowned and said impatiently, "Any problem?" "No, the Apocalypse organization does not have strong control over Africa, but there are still local S-level adapters. Under normal circumstances, the Apocalypse organization should arrange local S-class adapters to perform tasks nearby." Wang Yutang snorted coldly, knowing what the other party was thinking, and said, "A new era is coming soon, and Tomer has no place to retreat even if he finds a signal. Tomer is the local S-class adapter." Wang Yutang had a bad attitude towards Li Qingxian and the others, mainly because he really couldn't figure out how the other two S-classes were defeated by a wild S-class. This is simply a disgrace to their Apocalypse S-class adapters. "Thank you." Li Qingxian didn't want to argue with the other party, and said, "We are not safe here, and we are preparing to change places." While changing the topic, he was also answering what the other party asked outside the door. Wang Yutang said, "Then go quickly and take my car." However, Luo Guang didn't chase him until he got on the plane with the two of them and left. This made Wang Yutang a little disappointed. He also wanted to have a fight with Luo Guang to see what kind of person Wang Wei was interested in. In this way, it would not be in vain for him to come over and do this kind of task of wiping his butt. Indeed, the task given to him by the Apocalypse organization was only to cover Li Qingxian and the others back to the organization, and did not allow him to cause trouble to Luo Guang. But if Luo Guang came to his door, he would have enough reason to take action. After Luo Guang confirmed that Li Qingxian and the others had left, he pretended to pursue them and searched everywhere for 2 days before returning home. As soon as he entered the house, he was bombarded with questions from Ashley. Ashley already knew about the fact that Luo Guang came back but left after receiving a letter. Since Luo Guang left without saying goodbye, he must have something urgent to do when he left so anxiously. Therefore, the considerate Ashley will naturally not call her boyfriend to ask for details like immediately killing her. But now that Luo Guang is home safely, she won't be polite and has to ask him what he has been doing these days. Luo Guang did not hide anything and told the contents of the letter and what the enemy had done against him and Ashley. "The enemy is too scary." As he said this, he hugged Ashley and pushed his face towards her chest. Ashley understood his virtues and pushed him away. "You haven't showered for a few days, right? It stinks like hell. Luo Guang has taken a bath these days." He walked along the steps and said pitifully, "I'm so tired, Can you help me take a bath? Ashley, who had already taken a shower, blushed on her cheeks and said softly, you stained my clothes when you picked me up. I can't do it without washing. Li Qingxian and Xena finally returned to the Apocalypse Organization base. They took a shower first, and then conducted a physical examination. Finally, the two people who had just left the examination room received orders from the 12 seats. As S-class adapters, they can only be interrogated by the 12 seats. Wang Yutang, who was resting with his eyes closed, was also waiting in the room. He didn't turn around when he heard the two people coming in. He didn't even bother to look at Li Qing and them. There is only one of the 12 seats responsible for this inquiry, the 9th seat codenamed Libra. Libra seems to have nothing to do with numbers, but the scales here actually refer to the constellation Libra. Libra is the 7th house of the zodiac, and the 9th according to the birth month of the 12 zodiac signs. According to this constellation, the lucky numbers within 12 are 3, 4, 6, and 9, so the name Libra words are also related to numbers. However, the code name was only circulated among the 12 seats, so Li Qingxian and the others did not know this and would only call it the 9th seat. Li Qingxian, please report what you have done these days. The 9th seat wearing a mask saw that everyone had arrived, so he didn't talk nonsense and went straight to the point. Yes, Li Qingxian told what he had experienced these days. He didn't hide anything, nor did he add his own subjective thoughts. He just truthfully told what he had done with Hina in his memory. After listening to Li Qingxian's self-report, the 9th seat looked at Xena and said, do you have anything to add to what he said? Xena lowered her head and replied, no. The 9th seat nodded, looked at Wang Yutang, and said, tell me about the response situation. Wang Yutang told the 9th seat carefully about the situation, and also explained in detail Xena's injuries at the time. Xena's expression became very bad, and no one would be happy if their scars were exposed. In order to hide her expression, she did not raise her head, so she did not know that Li Qingxian was not angry about her experience. It's not that Li Qingxian doesn't love his wife anymore, he just hopes that his wife can realize her shame and then be brave and become stronger. Didn't Luo Guang catch up with you? The 9th seat asked a question. Li Qingxian took the initiative to answer, there was at first. Later we saw the wanted notice on TV and found out why we were discovered. Wang Yutang added, the bounty for wanted warrants is quite large, so those people will become enthusiastic citizens. The 9th seat nodded. Although the wanted order had nothing to do with the biological crisis, neither he nor anyone else became suspicious. Li Qingxian also mentioned that he did not reveal the name of the Apocalypse Organization, but went down the slope, and according to Luo Guang, admitted that he was avenging the people of the FBC. This was just what Li Qingxian said verbally. Luo Guang had no evidence, so naturally he could only ask the local police to arrest the two people for burning down the warehouse. The local police did not pay attention to Luo Guang's suspicious remarks, because Luo Guang had too much prestige in the local area and he also won the hearts of the people. The first thing the 9th seat did when he came to summon the three people was to review the situation of Li Qingxian and the other two in this incident to ensure that the secrets of the Apocalypse Organization were not leaked. The 9th seat was naturally very dissatisfied with their private actions, but the S level would play a huge role in the next new era, so he did not blame the two. Since both of them stated that they had used a fake identity to deceive Luo Guang and pass the physical examination, he, the 9th seat, did not question them again. However, according to the confidentiality agreement, he would secretly monitor the two for a period of time. The 9th seat said considerately, I know. Although you are wanted, it is only a local wanted warrant. It will be fine if you don't go there in the future. Li Qingxian took the initiative to say, we are going to retreat and exercise our abilities. The 9th seat naturally welcomed this. From this incident, he also found that many of his S levels were slack. After dealing with the first thing, he began to ask the second thing, How is Luo Guang's combat effectiveness? Does he have any special abilities? That's right, the second goal of the ninth seat is to understand Luo Guang's combat effectiveness. Xena, who was of S-class speed, raised her head and said, the opponent's speed is slower than mine, but he also has A-class speed. The Apocalypse organization uses levels to divide various physical abilities. The ninth seat had heard the general situation of the two people's battle and knew how Xena was defeated. He said, but you were caught by the opponent. Did you become careless after the attack was successful? Or did you stop when you hit Luo Guang? He took the opportunity to guide the opponent and let Xena know how to strengthen herself next. Xena thought about it and nodded to show that she agreed with the opponent's statement. But she was not unaware of this. She said, I was careless. But more importantly, the enemy's body was too strong. I think his defense is top-notch even in the organization. This top is the top of the S-class defense. Wang Yutang raised his eyebrows and clenched his right hand, as if he wanted to try whether Luo Guang's body could block his full-strength attack. Xena was still talking about the situation at that time. After my knife cut in, I wanted to pull the knife to directly cut the enemy's body, but the opponent's defense was high, and the dagger could not cut it, which caused my movement speed to slow down. The human body's defense has its limits. Under normal circumstances, Xena's special dagger should not be able to cut Luo Guang's body. But if the opponent has special abilities, it would be another matter. So the ninth seat asked, did Luo Guang use special abilities? I can't see it. Li Qingxian and Xena answered the question in unison. The ninth seat did not comment on this, but just said that he knew it. The next situation was that Xena quickly withdrew from the battle and looked very embarrassed. Naturally, she didn't want to talk about her embarrassing appearance. So Li Qingxian took over the topic. When Xena was controlled, I immediately went forward to launch a fierce attack on the enemy, but the opponent's defense and recovery ability were too strong. I couldn't break the defense with just my fists. He himself was more accustomed to attacking with fists and feet, so he didn't bring weapons when he was looking for trouble with Luo Guang. The ninth seat recalled Li Qingxian's power level and asked, how strong is Luo Guang? Li Qingxian answered decisively, it is undoubtedly S level. The two sides asked and answered, and the ninth seat soon had a general impression of Luo Guang's combat power. He looked at the data he recorded and couldn't help but sighed, hearing what you said, Luo Guang's physical attributes are all top-notch except for his slightly inferior speed. Wang Yutang took the initiative to say, but it may also be that these two people are not good enough, so they overestimated Luo Guang's strength. Hey! What do you mean? Xena felt like her tail was stepped on. The ninth seat stopped the two and said, don't make a fuss in front of me. Xena was indeed defeated by Luo Guang, but she is a real S-level adapter anyway. Also, I know you are one of the 3 golden people of the Wang family, but don't be too arrogant. I don't want to hear about you being slapped in the face in the future. Yes, I know I was wrong. Wang Yutang apologized directly without refutation. Seeing this, Xena didn't say anything else and closed her mouth. The ninth seat had one last question. According to what you said, Luo Guang did not use his special abilities when fighting with you. Do you think he is a pure human? Pure humans actually refer to people who have not been fused with biochemical viruses or other things. This is a very important question. If Luo Guang is still a pure human, then it means that he still has a lot of room for improvement. Wang Yutang was also very concerned about this and turned his head to look at the two. Li Qingxian and Xena looked at each other. It seems not. It should not be. The ninth seat said with a little surprise, so, Luo Guang's value is much higher than expected. He never called Luo Guang an enemy from beginning to end, so when he heard this, he couldn't help but want to capture Luo Guang immediately. But he thought that the people of the Wang family were also listening here, so let the Wang family decide on this matter. It happened that he could observe and collect more information about Luo Guang. Wang Yutang also knew his family's plan, so even if he thought that Li Qingxian and the others were too weak to force Luo Guang's special abilities, he didn't say it. When the family caught the other party, they would naturally see the result. Meow, thanks for subscribing and voting meow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 541. Luo Guang was holding Ashley, who was sleeping soundly, thinking about the Apocalypse organization. He expected that Li Qingxian and the other two would be investigated by the organization, and he could also collect intelligence about the Apocalypse organization through the two people's eyes and ears. The ninth seat kept asking about his affairs in the second half. But from his impression, Luo Guang felt that the ninth seat did not have much hostility towards him, but Wang Yutang always wanted to fight with him. From this point of view, he probably still attracted the attention of the Apocalypse organization, but for some reasons, the other party had not taken action. In addition, he did not manipulate the two to ask about the meaning of the word pure human. When the ninth seat said this word, Luo Guang could know the meaning of this word from the two people's thoughts, which means that this is common sense in the organization. He personally manipulated and executed the action of Li Qingxian and Hina looking at each other, because he wanted to use this short gap to think about how to answer the other party's question of whether there are special abilities. Should he pretend to be a pure human to improve his value? Or should he truthfully explain that he saw his special abilities? Luo Guang chose the former. Although this would attract the guys from the Apocalypse organization, there are more benefits. The first point is naturally that he does not need to disclose the information about his special skills. Of course, it is also possible to use false information, but when the Apocalypse organization finds that the goods are not what they claim, they will suspect that Li Qingxian and the others deliberately provided wrong information, causing him to lose these two undercovers. The second point is that he can play the pig and eat the tiger, which will make it easier for him to entertain the members of the Apocalypse organization. In general, the best result is that Li Qingxian and his team successfully pass the review of the 12 seats. However, he did not take it lightly and rashly let the two collect information about the Apocalypse organization. With the cautiousness of the Apocalypse organization, there is a high probability that they will conduct a secret investigation on the two for a period of time to ensure that the two are really okay. This has nothing to do with trust or not, it is just the confidentiality system of the Apocalypse organization. So Luo Guang plans to let the two collect information about the Apocalypse organization after a while. Of course, this time cannot be wasted. He plans to manipulate the two and go to the S-level adapters of the Apocalypse organization to exchange ideas in the name of communication and get a good understanding of the enemy's high-end combat power. Luo Guang thought about various things, smelled the faint milky fragrance on Ashley, and fell asleep, enjoying the tranquility of the moment. Time quickly came to March 2004. After Jill conducted several tests on Parker, she finally recognized Parker's character and ability and began to train him as a successor. Parker was very puzzled by Jill's idea of wanting him to take over at such a young age, and he didn't know much about management, so he didn't think he was suitable for the position of minister. Jill told him her thoughts. The first was her relationship with Luo Guang, and the second was that she didn't know how to manage things at the beginning, and she also learned it temporarily by herself. Finally, there is one more point. The people in the European branch of BSAA have been trained very well by her and Luo Guang. So most things have been arranged by suitable people to manage. As a minister, you only need to make decisions on major events, which is relatively easy on a daily basis. Not only the European branch, but also the African branch. Parker was finally persuaded by Jill and prepared to see if he could be competent for this position. Back to Luo Guang, he went to Europe in early March. He went to Europe for Jill, but nominally he went to the headquarters to study. Although O'Brien was helpless about this, he did not stop him. Because Luo Guang really went to their headquarters in Terra Grigia to study. It was just that his learning speed was too fast. It was said to be a 1-month training course, but he completed it in 1 week, and spent the rest of the time with Jill. In April, Luo Guang said goodbye to the radiant Jill, accompanied Ashley for a week as compensation, and then took Shirley to the lighthouse. By the way, Jack did not follow this time. Luo Guang returned to the lighthouse because of the matter of Defense Minister Wilson, and the reason why he took Shirley with him was because Claire returned from Pannenstein. Because Leon was busy receiving FBC resources before, this matter was temporarily suspended. But now that Leon has received and digested FBC resources according to the planned time, he is ready to start planning to avoid more trouble. The four finally gathered at Claire's house. Wilson's matter can be implemented at any time, and there is nothing to discuss, so Luo Guang is not anxious to talk about it, and plans to exchange pleasantries first. Claire stroked Shirley's head and asked, "Shirley, are you used to life in South Africa?" Shirley's face was full of smiles, and she replied, "I am used to it. Everyone is very nice to me." With Shirley around, Jack instantly fell out of favor with the GIMZ members. Not only that, Shirley quickly surpassed a boy who wanted to show off his skills in front of her in the progress of the antibiochemical course. Jack didn't come back this time because he went to special training. He planned to give Shirley a surprise when she came back. Shirley then told Claire about her daily life at the GIMZ base. "Get up so early, won't you get enough rest?" Claire was a little surprised to hear that Shirley got up at 6 o'clock every day. When she was in the institute, Shirley got up at 9 o'clock at the earliest. It's not that she sleeps in, but those researchers often do experiments all night, so they all get up late. Generally, they wake up at noon and then devote themselves to research. So Shirley has basically nothing to do in the morning, so naturally she doesn't need to get up on time. It's easy to become a sleepy pig when you are at Claire's house. Shirley thought of her previous sleepiness and smiled embarrassedly. "The older brothers and sisters get up early to exercise, and I can't fall behind." She then told a funny story, but Boss Wu Song often sleeps in, sometimes he only comes out of the room at lunch, and he is the last person to get up in the base. As a boss, Wu Song should be busy until very late every day, so it's normal that he can't get up in the morning, right? Claire said something good for Wu Song. This made Luo Guang on the side feel embarrassed. Shirley pouted and said, "But he goes to bed on time at 9 o'clock every night, earlier than anyone else." Claire was stunned and couldn't find any other excuses. Luo Guang naturally did not defend his clone, but just said, "Boss Wu is very capable at work. Although he does not work much, he handles things every day, which is enough." Shirley could not deny this. When she heard Carlos and the others chatting, she said that the GIMZ troops had already negotiated the business with Terra Cipher and could go to the site of the biochemical crisis together as bodyguards in the future. Moreover, under the leadership of the African branch of BSAA, the GIMZ troops signed a cooperation agreement with the southern African countries, handing over the first-time emergency rescue mission to the GIMZ troops. The relevant expenses were reimbursed by BSAA, so the southern African countries did not object to this. Claire skipped this topic and continued to ask Shirley about her daily life. She had only learned about it by phone before, and because of her busy schedule, she did not ask too many questions. Luo Guang approached Leon, who was smiling like an ant. "How is your DSO doing now? Once things start, it will definitely have an impact on you." Leon nodded, "I'm ready. Later, I will also control the direction of the troops to avoid problems." He asked back, "What do you plan to do specifically? Is there anything we need to cooperate with?" Claire also looked over and said, "By the way, Jason from the Mad Dog Squad knows the bad things Wilson has done. Maybe we can contact him to testify. Luo Guang shook his head. No, we just have to watch the show. My people have convinced Wilson that he will personally make the facts public. He had contacted friends in the Far East branch and asked about Jason. But Jason escaped a few days after he secretly moved from Claire's camp to the BSAA Far East branch camp. And the people in the Far East branch also told Luo Guang that they found a biochemical virus in Jason's body. Now that the other party has run away, he is not a necessary candidate for his plan, so Luo Guang no longer cares about that person. Claire looked over here and said, by then, Pannenstein will be able to get out of the quagmire of war. But will that person really turn over a new leaf? Luo Guang had already prepared an explanation, not turning over a new leaf, but minimizing the losses and striving for leniency. Leon and Claire looked at each other, full of doubts. Luo Guang saw the other party's confusion and said, you will know the day after tomorrow. The next day, Leon and Claire saw the news that Wilson was going to hold a live news conference related to Pannenstein and invited famous media from home and abroad to participate. Luo Guang thought that the lighthouse country might control public opinion, so he asked Wilson to invite reporters from various countries to attend the press conference. This press conference was held in the White House, so President Seymour naturally asked about the content of the press conference. Wilson only mentioned that it was related to Pannenstein's biological and chemical weapons, and the president understood the content of the press conference. The reason why the Lighthouse Nation declared war on Pannenstein again was that Pannenstein was secretly researching biochemical weapons. Although President Seymour had previously issued a notice in the name of the Lighthouse Nation and described the research institute that Wilson and Tri-Union Company cooperated with as a research institute established by the rebels, giving his military action a legitimate reason. However, many countries in the world did not believe the Lighthouse Nation's one-sided statement and had complaints about it. So President Seymour thought that Wilson had prepared new false evidence and wanted to take this opportunity to confirm the fact that Pannenstein was researching biochemical weapons again. He did not plan to attend this press conference and planned to stay in his office and watch the live broadcast directly on TV to avoid being asked questions by reporters. At 7 o'clock in the evening of the third day, the live broadcast of this press conference started on time. Luo Guang, Claire, and Shirley were waiting for the opening in front of the TV in the living room of Claire's house, while Leon went back to DSO yesterday to take charge of the overall situation and was ready to face drastic changes at any time, so he was not here. The 230 seats in the press conference room were filled with reporters. Because the content of this press conference was not detailed, it only mentioned something related to Pannenstein. So the reporters were chatting and exchanging information in groups of 3 or 4, discussing what explosive content would be this time. But not all reporters were chatting, there was also a reporter who was writing something in his notebook with his head down. The moment the host came on stage and announced the official start of the press conference, all the reporters quieted down. They immediately entered the working state, turning on the recorder in their hands or adjusting the shooting equipment. Defense Minister Wilson walked to the podium with an expressionless face and glanced at the reporters below. He did not prepare a speech. He first said good evening to the reporters below and then went straight to the point, Pannenstein. Just as he started, the reporter who was originally sitting in the front row writing something suddenly rushed up and inserted the pen in his hand into Wilson's neck artery without hesitation. Luo Guang reacted quickly and wanted to control Wilson to avoid the attack. But Wilson, the old man, was too slow, while the attacker was much faster than ordinary people. With one gain and the other loss, Wilson could not avoid the attack at all and was hit in the vitals. This is for the dead brothers, the reporter raised his head and showed his face. Wilson looked at the other's face, but he didn't know who the other was. He now only had the desire for life and the fear of death in his heart. This happened in an instant, and the agents responsible for on-site security had no time to stop it. They anxiously pulled the attacker away and controlled him on the ground, but accidentally pulled out the pen inserted into his neck. The blood on Wilson's neck could not be stopped, and his body was getting more and more exhausted. He lay on the ground, looking at the dazzling lights on the ceiling, his vision and consciousness slowly falling into darkness. Wilson regretted that he was a step slower to surrender, and it was the sins he had committed that led to his current fate. Luo Guang's eyes widened. This was not what he had arranged. In his plan, Wilson would directly reveal his crimes in Pannenstein at the press conference. For this reason, he had been spending a lot of time these days to make Wilson have nightmares about innocent people chasing him every day. So Wilson regretted it when he was dying. Claire didn't know the specific plan. She covered Shirley's eyes and asked anxiously, "Luo Guang, did you arrange this?" Luo Guang denied while sending a message to Leon, "It's not me. I said before that I had persuaded him to reveal the bad things he had done in this press conference. How could I send someone to kill him at this time?" Claire, who had seen a lot of storms, quickly calmed down. After thinking about the other party's words, she said, "Could it be those who don't want him to self-destruct? For example, the one in the White House?" President Seymour, who was suspected of murder by Claire, was also shocked at this time. He didn't expect such a scene to happen. He came to his senses and quickly asked someone to go over to confirm the situation and ordered the live broadcast to be stopped. At the press conference, the reporter who was held down struggled and resisted while talking loudly about the bad things Wilson had done. Cooperating with Sanley and Company to study biochemical virus enhancement drugs and using the Mad Dog Squad as test guinea pigs, funding the Pannenstein rebels, secretly selling the Lighthouse's Harpoon anti-ship missiles to the Pannenstein rebels and assisting them in transporting the missiles back to the country. One thing after another was shocking, and the timid reporters were frightened and stood still. But there were also bold reporters with a keen sense of news who turned on the backup small recorder, looked around at the Lighthouse agents around them, and thought about how to release this big news. Meow, thank you for subscribing and voting meow. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 542. Luo Guang checked most of the underground area, and finally only one room with a password lock was left. This is also where Professor Dag said the evacuation helicopters were kept. Because Professor Dag's ex-girlfriend thoughtfully wrote the password, Luo Guang could open the door without cracking the electronic lock. He glanced around and said to himself, there really is a virology research institute. However, the area here is not large. To be precise, it should be called a virus research laboratory. And there is no helicopter here, as the principal said, only a dazzling array of research equipment and virus storage cabinets, arranged into a small research room. Luo Guang was not in a hurry to investigate the virus storage cabinet and computer, but immediately confirmed whether there was any surveillance here. Since the research room was burned down and the clues were destroyed, it makes sense that we can't continue the investigation. Looking for you, Luo Guang replied casually, turned around and looked at the thick pipe. Aiden naturally agreed to Luo Guang's request. In fact, the Institute's products have recently passed testing and entered the production and sales stage. However, in order to prevent Simmons from finding out, she basically used a pseudonym and did not open any detective agency. I want to kill the fake body. Don't you feel disgusted knowing that a person very similar to yourself exists? Ada had an unhappy look on her face. She came back to her senses and asked again, I have one last thing to ask. Do you know that woman who looks very similar to me? Who did it? Kara finally put down the test tube in her hand and focused on the call with Luo Guang. This plot was not arranged in her script. For example, Luo Guang really wanted to take him back to Simmons. On the other hand, the C virus in Indy's body has been destroyed by Luo Guang. No one on either side can use the virus in his body to restore the perfect C virus he created in his body. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Kara, who was busy researching, didn't answer and let the other party just fart. First, she didn't dare to refuse Luo Guang, and second, This was not a bad thing. Kara thought to herself and continued to immerse herself in her C-virus research. His purpose was to prevent Kara from obtaining research data through this biological crisis. I understand. But the research room was burned down, so your mission failed, Kara said and hung up the phone. Luo Guang continued to ignore the other party's initial questions and looked at the other party suspiciously. What good thing? After finishing what he should do, Luo Guang locked the door again and prepared to return to the ground to tell Chris and the others about the situation. Luo Guang did not let go of the remaining C-virus in Nana's body. He destroyed it before meeting at the gate. Luo Guang said the words he had made up. The other party ran into the woods. I chased him all the way, but the other party may have used a grapple gun, so the footprints were gone. Kara now just wants Simmons to be immersed in her own gentle land. Helping a father find his daughter who has been missing for many days. Ada is trying to change herself, so sometimes she will take the initiative to help when the road is rough. Ada dared to take the initiative to appear in front of Luo Guang before because she knew from the Guangming cult incident that the other party was not completely loyal to Simmons. She was talking about Luo Guang, and she was actually saying that her plan had failed, but she was smart and did not dwell on the failure of her plan. Luo Guang added, yes, they were originally just looking for someone, but a biological crisis occurred here. They have already contacted the Far East branch to send support. This is also another business he prepared for the GIMZ troops. After doing these things, Luo Guangke took out a miniature camera specially designed for spies and took pictures of everything here. Luo Guang, who came behind her at some point, shook his head and said, "Don't leave in a hurry." As for this part of the content, Luo Guang did not hide it, so it was not surprising that Aiden knew about it. Lest these talented researchers like them do something devastating because of boredom. She took out a photo from her coat. Inside was a girl wearing the uniform of Malhav College. But the more this happened, the more Luo Guang confirmed that this was Kara's self-directed act, because with the confidentiality awareness of the Apocalypse organization, no information related to his organization would be stored in the computer. He did not contact Chris and the others immediately. Instead, he ran into the forest and called the person who issued the mission on his satellite phone. When she arrived at the mountainside near Malha College, she happened to use the telescope to see Luo Guang meeting Chris and the others. Aiden nodded. This was what Leon contacted her on his own initiative. Ada evaded Pierce and the others and immediately searched for the underground area of the school. Ada snorted and said, "Believe it or not, I really took on such a task." Haha. Ada smiled softly, and then asked proactively, "Speaking of which, I didn't expect you to be here. Why aren't you at home with your beloved wife? Is there a quarrel?" He suddenly stopped and said, "Would you be happier if I said I didn't catch up with Ada?" Kara should remember the number of virus samples stored here, but she would not say anything if she found a problem. Ada King Luo Guang did not seduce the other party. He directly said the name and continued, "I am chasing the other party." Although she didn't know the specific reason why Luo Guang didn't destroy the institute himself, she could guess it through Luo Guang's identity as a member of the X organization, and also understood the reason why Luo Guang appeared in this school. Kara didn't have a clear understanding of Luo Guang's ability, so she didn't think there was anything wrong with this reason. "Have you discovered me a long time ago?" The other party came out from behind the bunker without a trace of surprise. Even if the other party asked it implicitly, Luo Guang could use the excuse that maybe the two mutant monsters used the virus samples here to have different mutations. The fire extinguishing system of the laboratory was destroyed, but the ventilation system was blowing in. "I can't put out this fire for a while." Luo Guang said that he was powerless. Luo Guang felt that the other party wanted to quarrel with him, and retorted, "I often accompany them, okay. But you let Leon stay alone in the empty room every day, he is too pitiful." The two sides met for the first time, and Luo Guang was not polite to him. Kara paused, and immediately found a reason. What about the task I assigned to you? You just gave up? Do you remember what the leader told you? Listen to my orders and go collect evidence quickly. Luo Guang would not fall for it, and threatened, don't avoid the topic. You are Leon's girlfriend, not his wife. If you want to catch me, you would have done it long ago. Why are you still chatting with me here? Ada felt that she had also taken advantage of Leon to make him give up catching her. You said before that Leon didn't have time to contact you. Luo Guang exposed the other party's previous lies and asked back, what if you know the other party's identity? There is no problem with the authenticity and accuracy of the research data, and there are also some materials that prove that this is the work of the Apocalypse organization. She suppressed the joy in her heart and said in a flat tone, in this case, don't tell the leader about this matter, don't let him be happy for nothing. Luo Guang said, the temperament is different, the tone of speech is also different, and he will not call me handsome, but hey. Handsome, did you find anything good? A slightly familiar voice suddenly sounded from behind. Luo Guang had an impression of this face and name. He raised his hand to cover half of the face in the photo and answered, this girl mutated into a monster and was killed by me. Luo Guang looked at the person who looked like Ada and said, why? Do you think I recognized the wrong person? Leon did not ask any more questions, but was just wondering why the other party had plastic surgery to look like Ada, worried that someone was going to harm Ada. If Ada wanted to turn over a new leaf, he might believe it for Leon's sake, but he didn't believe that Ada would take the initiative to take care of things other than the biochemical incident. At this point, Ada couldn't help but say, if Leon was half as good as you at slacking off, he wouldn't have to stay alone every day. Ada was unwilling to be defeated every time she met the other party, and replied, you are the one who avoided the question, right? I asked the question first. And this incident has nothing to do with me. I came here to do good things this time. Kara was indeed secretly happy when she heard the first half of the sentence, but she was still very unhappy to be said by someone, and replied, how did you lose it? Luo Guang's sunny smile made Ada feel uneasy. Leon told you. Although Luo Guang told Leon about Kara, he only said that someone looked exactly like Ada at the time, asking him not to recognize the wrong person, and did not tell Leon Kara's identity. As for the virus samples he had obtained before, he only left 2 copies for the GIMZ Institute and the Mother Nest Institute. I dare not go to the lighthouse country. Ada directly blamed herself and complained, and this is not my fault, it's Leon, a workaholic who works every day without a holiday, how can I accompany him? Kara asked Luo Guang to dress up as a student to infiltrate the investigation, and thought that the other party would spend a lot of time, but she didn't expect that the other party would call her so soon. Although the other party didn't respond, Luo Guang didn't dwell on it and reported the situation directly. There was a biochemical crisis in Malhai College. I found a secret laboratory in the underground area. But I was a step too late. The laboratory had been destroyed and everything was burned. He planned to take the last virus sample to the Mother Nest base for Jasmine and others to study for fun. It would be best if they could produce some results that benefited mankind. Would you do such a thing? Luo Guang still didn't believe it. After seeing Ada, he temporarily changed his plan and asked the other party to destroy everything in the laboratory. How do you know that I'm not the one who turned into me? Perhaps because he felt it was a bit confusing, Ada deliberately asked in Chinese. Anyway, the X organization already has the C virus sample, and he won't change the situation if he takes it back. Sorry. Luo Guang shrugged, looking indifferent, and said, anyway, you don't have to do anything, that person will self-destruct sooner or later. Just be careful not to expose your relationship with Leon. He planned to take one of the other 2 samples to the GIMZ Institute to study vaccines and antidotes. Does this matter really have nothing to do with you? Luo Guang confirmed again. Then Luo Guang hacked into the computer in the laboratory and quickly checked the data on it. the task of arresting Aida is still on the task board. It was issued by the boss. Luo Guang looked innocent. However, it was in his interest for Kara to provoke a conflict between the X organization and the Apocalypse organization, so Luo Guang would naturally go with the flow and not raise any questions. Luo Guang corrected, the other party's chest size is a little bigger than yours. If you want to deal with the other party, then I will capture you and send you to Simmons. The other party is living in Simmons' house. The BSAA people are here too. Kara felt tired. Why did a simple plan have so many unexpected situations? Ada heard Luo Guang's words and gritted her teeth and said, "You are so annoying. You don't need to teach me." After saying that, Ada turned around and left. She turned around and kept her face calm. "What are you going to do? Guess it yourself." After saying that, the angry Ada turned around and was about to leave the basement, but suddenly someone held her shoulders. Her name is Nana. She hasn't contacted her family for several months. Have you met her here? Luo Guang brought the topic back to the mission and said, "Okay. By the way, the people from the BSAA organization are also here at Malharvey College. I just ran into them. Don't pretend. You just got here." Luo Guang said the other party's name, Ada. The other party did not admit her identity and walked out of the shadows. Ada did not take the highway when she came here, but took the mountain road. They exchanged contact methods, and the number of times they contacted each other was much more than in the Resident Evil game. Naturally, the relationship between the two was much deeper than in the game. After confirming that there was no monitoring equipment, he went to check the virus storage cabinet and confirmed the type of virus inside. It was indeed the original sample of the C virus. Half an hour later, Luo Guang returned to the ground. Kara certainly didn't dare to question this, otherwise she couldn't explain why she knew so much about the number of virus samples. Luo Guang only planned to hand over one sample to the X organization. Although Ada's previous grappling gun was taken away by him, it was a long time ago. Now she has got a new one. However, he had obtained a better perfect C virus, so he did not inject the original sample, nor did he deliberately destroy the viruses. He also took away 3 virus samples. As soon as she answered the phone, she heard Luo Guang say, "One good news, one bad news." "Who asked you to chase?" Kara was anxious. If Ada was caught, Simmons would have no place for her in his heart. Ada was stunned. She just asked a question as usual, but she didn't expect that the other party had really seen this girl. Ada, who was pressed by Luo Guang on the shoulder, had a sudden cardiac arrest and thought of various possibilities. She was not busy working every day, otherwise why did she work so hard to make money before? "Okay, what is your purpose here?" Luo Guang felt that the small talk was almost over, and it was time to talk about business. "Aren't you afraid that I will catch you and take you back to Simmons as his wife?" Meow, thank you for subscribing and voting meow.